call this meeting of the Schertz-Cibolo-Universal City Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. The time is now 6 o'clock. Roll call.
All board members are present except for Ms. Dreisbach.
Ms. Dreisbach is working. She did notify us. Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, tonight, Mr. Westbrook and trustees and guests were honored to have Julian Navarro-Plenty, a second grader from Watts, and Dominique Garcia, a 12th grader from Allison Steele, leading our pledge. Go ahead and tell us what you're going to tell us.
Okay.
Yep.
No, we can do the pledge first.
All right, that's...
Everyone's already saying, ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Good evening, members of the board, President Westbrook, and Superintendent Dr. Gibson. I'm Deanna Jackson, principal at Watts Elementary, and you all have been introduced to Julian Navarro-Plenty, who is in second grade in my campus. Julian was selected to be recognized this evening because he is a student who has the ability to change the climate of his classroom, that is. Julian's teacher has shared that his genuine kindness, respect, and encouragement of peers has taken on a life of its own in her classroom, and now all of his classmates are showing more love and support towards one another. It's truly a thing of beauty. His favorite subject is math, and he enjoys playing basketball and video games in his free time. He's joined tonight by his mother, Monica Navarro, and his sister, Brielle. Please stand and be recognized. Thank you for the opportunity to recognize this amazing little boy.
Thank you, Julian.
Good evening, Dr. Gibson, Board President Westbrook. Thank you so much. My name is Lisa Newman, and I am the principal at Allison Steele Enhanced Learning Center, and this is Dominique Garcia. And we selected her to represent us this week because she has fulfilled kind of that promise of Allison Steele about coming in and taking advantage of your second chances and making things work for us. She doesn't quit. She doesn't give up. She will always find a way. She is a senior this year. She will be graduating hopefully by December. She has 4 credits remaining. And in addition to school, she is very respectful and responsible outside by taking care of the children and having a lot of those adult characteristics that we all strive for as we graduate and move into our adulthood. She is joined today by Ms. Denise Smith and Leah. They moved on us. So if y'all would please stand and be recognized. And it's truly my honor to know Dominique as she has gone through this process. Thank you.
So, Dominique, thank you for all your hard work.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending the meeting. As part of the Schertz-Cibolo-Universal City Independent School District Community Partnership, we would like to acknowledge our numerous key partners and collaborators who are active contributors in helping the district achieve its mission and goals. Tonight, we salute partners who help make the Schertz-Cibolo-Universal City Independent School District a destination school district. From the City of Cibolo, we welcome the Honorable Jim Russell, who serves as District 5 Council Member and Mayor Pro Tem. The City of Cibolo serves as a strategic partner with SCUC, providing services to our school district that include growth planning and helping provide school resource officers to keep our students and employees safe. Mr. Russell.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gibson, Mr. Westbrook, and the rest of the board and district staff. It's a pleasure to be here this evening to receive this recognition. City of Cibolo takes great pride in our city, and we equally take great pride in our school district. Go Buffs, go Knights. We are strong supporters. We partner together with the school district. We just recently finished the project on Boardfield Road where the school district partnered with us and provided funding for the intersection improvements there as we widen the road. And in our budget for this year, we're adding another school resource officer to the school district. So we strongly support the school district. As a parent, I was talking to Dr. Gibson earlier. My daughter just graduated from Steele. I was talking to her this morning. She's on her way back to college at Angelo State University, where she's on a full scholarship ride, a member of the honors program, hired by one of my competitors to work at the bookstore, and climbing the 50-foot rock mountain at rock wall they have there every chance she gets. But it's, as a military person, I've traveled the world. Lived in 3 foreign countries. As I'm a military brat, so I probably lived 27 different places. I went to 7 schools of 12 years of grade school, but as I landed here in Cibolo, I wanted to keep my children in one place. And so we went through Watts with my son and my daughter. We went through Barbara Jordan Intermediate with my son and my daughter. We went through Dobie Junior High. We went through Steele High School. We went through the Steele Band. We went through my daughter joining the wrestling team as a senior. Kind of odd. You want to leave the band where you play 3 instruments and spend your senior year on the wrestling mat, but she did that. But, as a parent, I'm very, very proud of the school district, what this school district has done for my family, for my children, and, what you've done for the parents of our area here. And I thank you for that, and I salute you for that, and look forward to future partnerships. Thank you.
Before we move on, I would like to acknowledge that this is Board of Trustees member John Carrill's last board meeting. He has been a tireless and fervent advocate for his beliefs and for the betterment of this district. And I think for that alone, I think the entire school district should be very thankful. I wish him well, and I'm sure whenever he returns, we'll see him again. But thank you very much for all your effort. John. His replacement was chosen on Thursday night, on the 13th, Leticia Seaver. I think she will be sworn in approximately on Monday. Is that Monday, Priscilla? Yes, sir. Sworn in on Monday. All right, thank you. Next, we will have the board recitation of district belief statements.
I guess I should wake up. We believe all students have the capacity to learn and excel. We believe a safe and supportive environment is paramount to learning.
We believe living our core values of leadership, character, commitment, service, and learning. We believe engaging, interactive, and authentic teaching creates empowered, inspired learners prepared for our changing world.
We believe technology is a relevant tool that enhances learning in and beyond the classroom. We believe in a professional learning community that fosters collaboration for continuous improvement.
We believe transparent, clear, and timely communication among all is critical to success, and we believe measures of success go beyond standardized testing.
We believe public education is defined by the local community with limited state involvement.
Thank you very much. Next, we will have recognition of student representatives, Dr. Gibson.
Yeah, thank you, President Westbrook, and trustees, staff, and guests. Tonight, we're honored to have Katarina Dumas, an 11th grader from Clemens High School, and Jordan Burton, a 12th grader from Steele High School. And y'all can go down to the podium and meet your administrators who will introduce you. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Terry Henry. Dr. Gibson, President Robert Westbrook, and trustees. I am honored and pleased to introduce to you Katarina Dumas. She is a junior here at Samuel Clemens High School. She's been in the district for 3 years, and she is the daughter of Catherine and Douglas Dumas. Mr. Dumas is able to be here. They have to divide and conquer. Over the past 3 years, Katerina has been involved in numerous clubs and organizations such as Key Club, the Jazz Band, as well as Student Council, where she has flourished as a dynamic leader. During the 2016-2017 school year, Katerina was the cabinet head for SCUCO, and during last year, she served as the Student Council Vice President, and she is currently the President of Student Council. And her sponsor is here this evening. If Miss Wendy Potts would stand to be recognized. Thank you. Katerina is working towards being future ready by taking classes in the IB program, which challenges her to be very resilient and a critical thinker. She currently is ranked number 6 in her class, and her GPA is 105. Katerina is service-oriented as she selflessly volunteers her time supervising students at the Randolph Vacation Bible School. She runs games and paints faces at the Triumphant Lutheran Oktoberfest, that's right around the corner. And she also was a student volunteer at our 50th anniversary last fall at Clemens High School. And the last thing she has done, she's a high school teacher aide at Randolph Religious Education. After graduating with her high school as well as her IB diploma, Katerina would like to attend a college on the East Coast and major in creative writing to be a writer. But she's always thinking of Plan B, academic Plan B, where she will also consider pursuing a career in law or politics. So I introduce you to Katerina.
Good evening, good afternoon, Dr. Gibson and President Westbrook and trustees. Expectations are high at Samuel Clemens High School. I know this because I witness it firsthand every day. Before school hours, the campus is filled with the sounds of the dedicated band and the drills run by ROTC who continue to better themselves every day. Teachers and staff arrive early and wait for students who are willing to further their education during tutoring. It is the selflessness of this staff providing us support in order that we ourselves may succeed in the future. When the first bell rings, the hallways flood with students and the overwhelming sense of community. Conversations ignite between peers about the efforts at the game the previous night or volunteer work within the community that weekend. Many of these students do their best to maintain a healthy balance between school and outside activities, which requires them to be flexible, as maintaining such a schedule is no easy task. As for myself, I am grateful for the opportunity to be in the IB program, allotting me the critical thinking skills and knowledge required to prepare me for an evolving future. In addition to this, I have earned the position of Student Council President here at Samuel Clemens High School. This has allowed me to reach out to our diverse population and be able to help them create the environment that they want to see at Clemens. Through school events and service projects, we are able to build our community inside and outside of school, while also learning valuable skills that will be able to help us contribute to the world once we graduate. Many of these traits are tools that cannot be taught in a classroom. Rather, they are learned through experience. What shapes a person is not only the knowledge gained in class, but especially the experiences they endure as students. I am incredibly grateful for the opportunity Samuel Clemens High School has given me, and I hope to use these tools and traits to better the future. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Gibson, President Westbrook, and members of the board. At this time, I'd like to introduce an extraordinary young man and a future leader for us who proudly exhibits all the traits of an SCUC graduate on a daily basis, Mr. Jordan Burton. Jordan has attended SCUC schools for the last 10 years. He's the son of Patricia and Charles Burton. As a senior at Steele High School, he's a dynamic leader. As president of our NHS, a leader in FCA, he participates in I Am Second, GT, and Key Club. His work in these areas around campus have helped build the communication skills needed for his bright future ahead. With a focus on service orientation, Jordan also spends his Saturday evenings volunteering at Catalyst Youth Ministries, where he helps maintain the building and greet guests while ushering them to their seats. His participation in Key Club also allows him to serve the community through many volunteer activities throughout the year. Jordan's strong focus, determination, and self-motivated drive have led to many additional athletic recognitions on campus, including second place in triple jump for JV track during his freshman year, first place during his sophomore year, and he advanced to areas in varsity track his junior year. Who knows what this year will bring? Looking ahead and ready to start his future plans, Jordan hopes to attend UT Austin's School of Engineering, a great choice of colleges, I might add. Following graduation, he plans to study aerospace engineering and eventually become an engineer for NASA. Please welcome Jordan Burton.
Welcome. Thank you, Dr. Greg Gibson and President Westbrook, for giving me this opportunity to speak and represent my school and the community within my school. One thing I have to say is that the beliefs and statements that SCUCISD has, they're very much portrayed in Steele High School. The staff and the principal especially does a very good job of creating an atmosphere in which the students truly feel safe, feel motivated, and feel appreciated for their hard work. I have to say that this encourages me and helps me to become, well, as she introduced me, a leader among my students, a leader among my friends, a leader in NHS, a leader in FCA, a leader in Key Club. These beliefs and statements, I believe them too, thanks to the staff. As such, I am a student within the community, and very much I can say from experience that those things are true, that I am motivated, but not only because of the staff, but because of my parents, of course, and the community around us. I want to thank the SCUC people here. I want to thank everyone here for giving me this opportunity and for creating a school district in which all the students can feel motivated and truly have goals to aspire to be great, like going to UT, as I do. But truly, I'm just grateful for all that I have, that this school district has given me, and all the opportunities that I've had because of the school district. Thank you very much.
Next, we will have the recognition of staff. Dr. Gibson.
I am turning it over to Ms. Goldhorn.
Good evening, members of the board, President Westbrook, and Superintendent Dr. Gibson. I would like to introduce to you, as the Elementary Education Services Director, I'd like to introduce to you our principal, who's going to be recognized this evening. She's an elementary principal at Watts Elementary, Deanna Jackson. She has been serving in education for the last 15 school years. And a fun fact about Miss Jackson is that one of her first jobs was a TV news reporter in Wichita Falls, KAUZ.
Channel 6.
Like, there we go.
CBS affiliate.
So we would like to recognize Deanna as a wonderful principal at Watts Elementary and all of her hard work this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, B. Oh, take the board, Deanna.
Good evening, members of the board, President Westbrook and Superintendent Dr. Gibson. I'm Brett Limley. I'm the Director of Secondary Education Services. I would like to introduce our secondary principal who is attending this month's board meeting, and that is Dr. Lisa Newman. She's the principal at Allison L. Steele Enhanced Learning Center. A fun fact about Dr. Newman is that her move to Allison Steele has been amazing, and now the number of schools at which she has worked finally exceeds the number of colleges she attended.
14.
So it's college, career, military ready right here. One of all of those. So we want to thank Lisa for all of her hard work. We know that Allison L. Steele is a great asset to our district, and we appreciate all the work you do with our students. So thank you.
Next, we will have
Ms. Jackson, pardon me, Ms. Jackson was also one of my former students back, just a few years ago. Just a few years ago. Thank you.
Next, we will have Ed Suarez with the recognition of the Schertz-Cibolo-Universal City Independent School District Human Resources Department and adoption of proclamation.
Can we have the HR department come up, please? Ms. Cannon, you as well. Yes. Dr. Gibson, President Westbrook, members of the board, we have a proclamation for Texas Education Human Resources Day. Whereas the Human Resources Division is instrumental in recruiting, selecting, resourcing, and retaining quality staff in support of providing an excellent education for all students, and whereas Human Resources plays a key role in fostering satisfaction and loyalty among employees by allowing for professional growth and development and keeping employees informed about policies, working conditions, compensation, and benefits. And whereas Human Resources monitors and manages current and future workforce trends, organizational culture, legal and legislative trends, and ethical and social responsibility. And whereas Human Resources is an important part of district leadership and is vital to the overall productivity and efficiency of the district's workforce. And whereas Human Resources is a valued and respected department that sustains the district's most important asset, its people. And therefore, the Board of Trustees of the Schertz-Cibolo-Universal City ISD does hereby resolve that October 10th, 2018 will be observed as Texas Education Human Resources Day throughout the district. The board also encourages students, staff, and parents to express their appreciation to our Human Resources team members for their dedication and commitment to SCUCISD employees and students on this day, September 18th, 2018. Congratulations.
Hold on.
Can I get a motion for the adoption? It's a proclamation, right? An adoption? It needs to be
Yes, sir.
adopted?
Yes, sir.
Any wording?
Just somebody move to approve.
Just move to approve the adoption.
The proclamation.
I make the motion that we accept the proclamation as it was presented.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the passing the proclamation, raise your right hand. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Mr. Westbrook, before we take the picture, I would, now that it's adopted, I would have added one more, whereas the HR department was told to pack up all their stuff and get out of their office right in the middle of July, yet they still managed to hire over 150 people and have them in place for the start of school. We had a little renovation in this building, some of you, and we're okay with that, Wayne. Don't get me wrong. It's just not a dig at you. But this group literally picked up all their stuff and left one day. They were out of work for about a half a day. They were hiring by that afternoon, and they got everybody hired on time and got transplanted to a little elementary school while this renovation. So I would add that whereas to this, that was pretty awesome and unbelievable that y'all pulled that off. So we're really proud of you for that.
Stay right here. Yes. I would like to introduce my team. We have right here Anne-Marie Williams, who's an HR clerk and receptionist. She's actually the district receptionist, plus she's also an HR clerk for us. Then we have Jody Walrich, who's also an HR clerk. Deborah McSweeney, she's actually our certification specialist, so she works with all of the professional staff and bringing them on board. Jason Pounds is our new risk manager. He replaced Regina Agee when she retired. And Nina McChesney, she's our HR manager.
Great job, Linda, and your whole team. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Next, we will have public comments. The Board of Trustees will now hear public comments. In order to provide consistency and fairness to all individuals, public comments will be heard in accordance with the Board Policy BED and procedures outlined in Administrative Regulation BED. Comments should be limited to topics such as policies, curriculum, and facilities. Any directed criticism of a specific employee will not be heard during public comments and should be considered separately as provided in Board Policy. In this context, individuals are cautioned to not identify any employee by name or by any combination of words or descriptions which could identify the employee to another individual. Public comments will be limited to individuals who signed up to participate in the public comment portion of the meeting before the board meeting was called to order. Delegations of more than 5 persons shall appoint 1 person to present their views. Any individual who signed up to participate in the public comment portion of the meeting may not relinquish their time to another individual. No public comment shall exceed 5 minutes. To ensure compliance with time limitations, a yellow card will be held up by the board secretary at 4 minutes, and a red card will be held up at 5 minutes. We will have Katie Cunningham.
Good evening, Dr. Gibson, President Westbrook, and trustees. And thank you, President Westbrook, for talking with me last night after the meeting. I was the one with the baby that was acting all crazy. I'm a Clemens grad, and I now have a child in first grade at Cibolo Valley Elementary. We specifically chose to live in this district based on the experiences that I had in the district. They were wonderful. I actually had Mr. Pivoteau as one of my principals, and Mr. Pruski was one of my principals, a couple other familiar faces too. It's always like a reunion every time I look around or go to Walmart. It's a little scary. We also chose to live in this district based on the quality of the academics and other programs within our district, and the district's great record of working with the community to ensure that every child and every family receive the best services and education every day. I'm here today not to speak about the schools, but about property that is owned by the school district that may be impacted by a city project. As many of you are already aware, Cibolo has entered into a contract to build a toll road that will extend from the curve on 1103 near Steele High School down to IH-10. I'm not here as pro-toll or anti-toll. I'm not trying to change anyone's mind. I'm not even here to discuss that aspect of the project. My concerns are as a taxpayer and as a parent within this district. The most current route that has been presented has the road going through 2 properties that belong to the school district. One is one corner of the property where Steele is, and the other is a property that the school district has set aside for a future school off of Hakerville Road. I ask that the board research this project before making any decisions because this will impact us. We are in a very explosively growing area and land is very limited. There's a tract of land next to Steele that's only 20 acres and it's on the market for almost $3 million. So finding land to build a school, if those pieces of property become unusable or impeded and not able to expand based on selling or giving the land to this toll project, could impact our district. It will impact our district in the future. There's a lot of information out there available on the City of Cibolo's website. They have a lot of links to documents, to the development agreement. I'm not sure if the most current map is up there, but I do have a copy of that if any of you would like it. I plan on preparing a packet of information for you with some links and some resources that are all factual based. I'm an analyst for the City of San Antonio. I need to have facts. I don't like hearsay. So I will have that for you hopefully in a few weeks, and I'll get that through whoever I need to get to you. But I wanted to let you know that this is a project that is pushing forward at this point, and that I'd really like you to take the time to really consider the impact of this on the students and the families in the district. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Cunningham. Next, Daniel Kearns.
Good evening, Superintendent and President Westbrook and the board. I am here this evening just to introduce myself. There is going to be a position coming up for the Guadalupe County Appraisal Board. I would like for you to take my recommendation for it, if I could, and ask any questions if you have them. I was terrified that I was going to be going after these students. These resumes that they have are just unheard of. I've never seen anything like that. My goodness.
Since it is on the agenda, I can address it. Well, everybody did receive your resume, or they should have received your resume, but it's typically a protocol that we probably don't sort of ask questions of one another before then, but.
Okay, I wasn't aware it was on the agenda. I apologize.
It should be on the agenda for the Guadalupe. Yes, it is on the agenda, but us asking you questions at this point in time is not traditional, is what I'm saying. So,
that's fine.
All right,
that's fine.
There will be a discussion period
Thank
later
you.
on it. So if you want to stick around later, we'll take a brief recess, and if there's any discussion between the board members, all that, we can ask it or bring it up during the recession, during the agenda item.
Thank
Fair
you.
enough? All right, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. President Westbrook, hey, just to clarify, so you know, it's item C, number 2, so that's when it'll be.
Is there any need to have a recess, a brief recess? No? If not, nope. If not, we'll move forward. Ms. Dumas, you want to recess or you want to? Well, we all have to stay to end. What about you, sir? No? You have any homework tonight? You do? Oh, my. They had stone tablets. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll move forward. I was going to talk about his age. Yes. She has to go. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Dumas. Any correspondence?
Mr. Westbrook, if you indulge me just for a second, I don't have any correspondence per se, but I do want to remark about a situation. My oldest granddaughter, Lila, she bears some resemblance to me, and she has my intelligence, so she's top student, you know. And, well, thank goodness she doesn't have my intelligence. But anyway, her teacher, one of her teachers in 5th grade at Wilder sent her parents a very nice email about my granddaughter's participation in class and some of the things that they're doing, and was just very, very positive about my granddaughter's experience there and what she's doing in class. And I tell you what, that made the world of difference. You know, this is the first child for them, and she's going off to a new school, and you know, there's some, you know, first year without being in school with mommy and everything, and it just meant so much to my son and daughter-in-law to receive that. And I read it, and I thought it was wonderful. I just want to thank the staff. I know other staffs do this at our other schools, but I just want everybody to know it does make a difference when that happens, when teachers reach out and principals reach out to their students and or their parents and let the parents know how the kids are doing. And you know, it meant a lot to Lila, too, to know that she's doing the right thing. So I appreciate that. I just want everybody to know that. Thank you.
Next, there's a commitment to board advocacy. So each board member has an opportunity to review what they've done in the community since the last regular board meeting. Mr. Pivito?
Yes. I do, and I've done watchdog at Green Valley Elementary School for the past 5 years. Now I'm in my 6th year there, and I'm enjoying that. I go on Wednesday and help in the cafeteria, walk around and help the kids, and so that's a good thing. And it's typically first graders, kindergartners, that sort of thing. The older kids don't need my help, nor do they want it. So I try to help where I can, but that's enjoyable. I also was able to attend the Patriot Day ceremony at Clemens High School on September 11th. And that's the first one I've been able to go to, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Got to see the ROTC doing what they do best, and there was so much respect and dignity in that ceremony. I was just blown away and so appreciative of what they do over there and at our ROTC at Steele also. So I appreciated being invited, and I'm glad I got to attend. I know Mr. Perkins and Ms. Dreisbach were there as well, and got to walk around the facility there a little bit, the event center. But also have attended Education Foundation meeting. I'm on the board of the Education Foundation. And we do have one of our fundraisers coming up October 20th. It's our casino night at the Schertz Center over here in the municipal building area. So hopefully everybody will be able to attend. You can purchase tickets on the SCUC Education Foundation website. So that's it. Thank you.
Hi there. I was able to attend the Schertz City Council forum, or actually their workshop over at United Methodist Church. talk about their bond issues coming up, actually their proposed tax rate increase and what their budget was going to look like for the next year. It's rather informative. It's good to sometimes learn what another government agency is up against, what they're trying to do to solve those problems. So it was very informative. It was about 2.5 hours of a lot of facts and figures, which is my thing. So I wasn't too bored, but it's good to see what government agencies are up against, and really wish the city of Schertz well. They've got some real issues to try and tackle, and I was there just basically to learn what they're up to. So I was really impressed with their presentation. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Perkins?
I was at the Patriot Day ceremony with David, and that was a very moving ceremony. I also got the opportunity to go to the Tri-County Chamber Luncheon, the Northeast Partnership Luncheon. CIS, I'm on the CIS board. We had a board meeting this morning, and also a chamber luncheon this morning, the Schertz-Cibolo-Selma Chamber Luncheon this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Crow.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to do the coin toss at 2 different games, one with Judge Crawford and one with Chamber President Maggie Titterington. Both of those went well. I think we lost both coin tosses, but you know, I think it was rigged, but that's just me. I had the opportunity to tour Clemens, so I got to go all through Clemens, and then I had the opportunity there to speak to 2 different classes, criminal justice classes, and which I always enjoyed doing. Went to Wilder. The principal gave me a tour of the complete school. I mean, everything about it. I got to meet some of the teachers. I thought that was wonderful. I had the opportunity to go to Green Valley, where I met, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Teacher of the Year last year with their special ed department, and she had a intern with her, and I'm just going to, obviously, she was Teacher of the Year for a reason. She was just fantastic, and I just enjoyed talking to her, and her level of motivation with this intern. You could tell the intern was just absorbing everything, and she truly was just a fantastic person. I talked to her for about 15 minutes, so if you could relay that, she was just fantastic. The last thing is, I'm not a big sports guy other than baseball, but I will tell you, I truly have gotten to the point where I enjoy watching college and NFL football, because there's very few games that we watch now that doesn't have a graduate from one of our schools in it. We watch USC, and it has a graduate from Clemens. We watch UT, it has a graduate from Steele. We watch UT, it has numerous graduates from all over. I think there's 3 graduates in the NFL now with the Seahawks practice squad, with Kansas City, and with the Rams. And so it's really nice now to watch a game and say, hey, I remember that kid when he played at Clemens, or I remembered him at Steele, and I think that's a testament to the great athletic coaching and everything from the staff. So I think that's a great job, and it's just really exciting to watch all the sports, and I'm sure there are a lot of other sports too, but it's just neat because you can almost watch any game and pick someone that's from one of our 2 schools, so it's just really neat. And other than that, that's all I did. I watched lots of football, though.
Thank you very much. I think me and several others attended football games, the home games here with Steele. Next, Cibolo Town Hall meeting. It was informative. They sort of gave some information about upcoming bonds and their tax issues and some of the upcoming issues. And then I attended the Cibolo Meet the Candidates last night with the Chamber and Cibolo Town Hall over at Cibolo Town Hall. So it was informative. And I think Jim did a pretty good job last night. He did a pretty good job last night. So, but thank you very much. Next, we will have a new business report items. Report on the 2018-2019 District Strategic Plan presented by Dr. Edwards.
Just a second, Dr. Edwards. Mr. Westbrook, if you want to, item number 7 under discussion items actually takes up the appraisal district nomination, if you will. And so if you wanted, with Mr. Kern still here, if you wanted to take that up, it's page 33 in the board book.
No, I wanted him to wait all night.
See how badly he wants it. We can just put it at the back
Yeah, I
of the
wanted to see
agenda.
I want to see how bad he wants it. If he's willing to stay till 10:30, 11, or before he says 10:30, 11, that early. If there's no objection, we'll move up the An action item for the Guadalupe
Yeah,
County
and
appraisal?
it's actually, the action item tonight is for a facility renovation, so that's a little bit later in the agenda. This is just a discussion item for the nomination. They don't need that until, I believe, 25 October, and so we have time to make the actual action item in October before it's due to the appraisal district. So tonight's just a discussion item.
Okay. Request for board approval, Guadalupe County Appraisal District, Capital Page Maloney.
No, I'm sorry. This is item A7,
Where's A7?
a discussion item. This is only a discussion item tonight.
Director-
The action item is to build a wall or a roof or something.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a different item. So
So here's how it was approached to me. Because of John's resignation, there's a vacancy. He was filling the position on the Guadalupe County Appraisal District. Mr. Kearns reached out to me, and I subsequently notified the rest of the board members of his interest. I basically told him that we usually had a board member on there going back as far as Mark Wilson, John Carreau, and Ed Finley. And so I thought his only opposition was as if another board member wanted to be on that board. None have expressed interest to me thus far. And so basically we're here. What's the remaining term? I don't know how long is the remaining term, John? How long is the remaining term? For
2 years. So about a year and 6 months, give or take.
Okay, so that's what's left on John's term. January. Okay. So about another year or so. If there's any discussion or concerns or?
Hey, I would like to have a little discussion. And I say this every meeting, I'm not a numbers guy. And so those appraisal meetings, for someone like me, they had to break it down to explain everything to me because I couldn't understand it. And after looking at the resume that Mr. Kearns sent, I think he has a very solid background in various aspects of financial management and finances in general. And I think he would be a very good fit for that position based on having a stronger financial background, and he would definitely have my recommendation.
Any other questions for Mr. Kearns or in general comments?
Well, I guess right now, so we're just looking to nominate someone, correct? And they bring back a list for the next board meeting to then give our votes to, or how does that work?
Well, the way it's been expressed to us is that this nomination, all the entities are going to nominate someone, and then the remaining board members are going to select someone. Informally, yet I guess formally, it's been expressed to me that, of course, we have the most votes, and
Right.
so typically whoever we vote for gets on, and I think they're generally willing to honor that, is what I understand. So basically, whoever we nominate has a really, really, really strong chance of serving on this. So you better be serious if you really want this. I think there's a chance that our nominee will be the one that's selected. And it's just a discussion item tonight, and I guess during the month, if someone else is interested, just to let us know. If not, then we have a candidate who's saying he's willing to serve on behalf of the school district.
That's what I'm saying. So the next board meeting will basically vote to submit a nominee?
Correct.
Yes.
And then it'll come back to us again, I guess, from the list of nominees to
If
give the
I-
weight of our votes to, and
No, if I
we
understand.
basically select who we want.
That's the way it is typically done.
Right.
So on page 34, let me just look at this real quick. So that fifth bullet down, the board of directors shall elect by a majority vote of its member one of the nominees. So they're just selecting it from the names that are submitted by the cooperating entities.
Mr. Emmett, if I may, I believe that the school board has the nomination for the position. With the amount of votes, like Dr. Gibson said, it does really surpass everybody else's votes, and it's a little bit heavier than everybody else's. That being said, once the nomination goes up, it does go to the Commissioners Court for approval and so forth. But after the nomination at this body, I don't believe it comes back to you guys.
Yeah, so it looks like, so the board of directors of the appraisal district is the entity that actually selects the person, right?
Correct.
So-
Yes, sir. They
So-
just make the nomination to the Commissioners Court.
And I may have said the board a while ago. I should
Yeah,
have stressed,
yeah.
yeah, the board of the tax appraisal.
So
will make
typically,
the
because of
selection.
the weight of our taxable values, we can pretty much control one slot, but in this case, not necessarily.
Yeah, although they have expressed that they wish to honor
Okay.
the fact that we are the largest entity. But, that's what they said.
Right, okay.
And in the future, if I may, the actual school board, the school district has enough votes not to just secure one spot. It does have enough if it partnered with one of the other entities to actually get 2 spots on the appraisal board.
Yep.
Any questions, comments, concerns? I guess it'll come up for an action item next month, but is my understanding. Yeah.
And the deadline is the 25th of October, and our board meeting is on the 16th of October. So there's plenty of time, we checked, so we'll be able to
Excellent.
submit it in advance.
Well, if y'all come across any questions or anything like that, I would be more than happy to be available to the board.
And if, I would just, Mr. Westbrook, if it's appropriate, I would ask that if any trustees have any concerns to let me know. Otherwise, we may express to them verbally that we think we have a candidate. I'll wait a few days, but if y'all would just give me an email or something, then I'll just express that we think we have someone that we're going to submit so that they're aware of that.
Fantastic. Thank you for the consideration. I greatly appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you. They wanted to go easy on you, not me, Mr. Kearns. Report for the 2018-2019 District Strategic Plan. Dr. Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Westbrook, Dr. Gibson, members of the board. Give me just a second, I'll pull something up. Last month, we went over some of our scorecard with you, and I wanted to recap a couple of those things and then actually share with you some of the work and the progress that we've made since then. If you remember, one of the things we talked about is the integration and alignment of our processes and how we start with a strategic plan and that moves to our district improvement plan. A great deal of work has gone into that. Ms. Kovacs and Ms. Maloney are leading that process. That moves us then to the district scorecard, which we've developed, and then that also leads to the campus improvement plan, campus or department scorecard, and then also all the way down into grade level or subject area scorecard. And so we wanted to kind of share a few things reflecting on that, on why the scorecards and what they measure. It is a reflection of our overall district plan. It is also contains, for the last several years, we've worked on SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, results-oriented, and time-bound processes that we have in place. And so, again, this is just a reflection of last time and how that alignment and some of those processes go through that. Over the course of the next several months, we'll have an opportunity to come back and report out on our priorities that align with our scorecard. But we did want to bring your attention to this slide because it talks about several of the things that we have in place that align with that. Our professional learning community is the foundation of what we do. Our continuous improvement meetings, you'll hear reference to that throughout the scorecard. We're in the process of having our first quarter continuous improvement meetings where we're reviewing campus improvement plans and scorecards. Had just had a great time with those over the last week or two. We're probably up to about 8 of our campuses, and the rest of them are scheduled. Then also moving into what we do with some of our walkthroughs and ultimately those data reviews that we also mentioned. So I want to bring your attention now, and you have a copy of this, but we wanted to put a copy also up on the screen so the participants could see a little bit about our scorecard process. Again, how the arrows align. And so what you have are 5 tabs. Tab 1 is the district scorecard, and that's what we have here. That's what we've worked on over the course of the year. And just a reminder, these the 18 to 22 strategic plans in this top left corner are static. Those are our plans. Those are our goals for the next 4 years for continuous improvement. And then we get into the 3 areas of key annual results. What do we want to achieve this year? How are we going to do that? What actions that we're going to take are in the top right corner. And then in the bottom right corner, how are we measuring that along the way? And that's similar in each of the quadrants of priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, and priority 4. So you can see where we started with the foundation of this district scorecard. with all three priorities. This led us to working with campuses, but also departments and divisions as it relates to our areas. Student Academic Services did a scorecard, and you can see here, pretty much for us, priority one is priority one. That has to do with learning and student achievement, college career and military readiness. But we also then got into priority two and some of the bands that we have with our Intergage survey or our employee engagement. And then went into priority three and how we impact the community and some of the things that we want to do. And you can see here on the bottom is where we really drill down to how we want to impact the overall goal of this. And hopefully what you're seeing is there is an alignment not only from scorecard to scorecard, but also into those overall 4-year strategic goals that we have as part of our strategic plan. So you can see this from Student Academic Services, each of the departments within Student and Academic Services. So secondary education, elementary education, curriculum, professional development, the 8 areas that lie within Student and Academic Services also have their own scorecard. We're just not showing all of those to you. But we did want to share one of the department scorecards. You can see here our operations side also creates their scorecards and how they support each of those priorities. Our operations staff has already started color coding theirs, and if you remember the red, yellow, and green, red is we haven't started yet, yellow is that we've started and we're making progress on that, and green is that's fully implemented. And as we go through this process, we talk about what we call ADLI, our approach, our deployment, learning, and integration. And so you can see here we've developed an approach, that's the scorecard, and that cascading or that alignment or integration of the scorecard. You can see that it's being deployed as we look at the different scorecards and how that goes. We're learning. We're in those continuous improvement visits we've talked about, we're learning from each of the campuses. We're learning from each of the departments. The departments can review each other's and say, oh, I like that idea. I didn't think about that. You know what? This might apply to us. And so it's really a system of refinement. So those are relevant for us. And so this is an example of our operations, one of our, like I said, maintenance and facilities under our operations scorecard and how they contribute. Each area is a part that contributes to the whole, and that's the district scorecard and our priorities. And so you can see also 3 and 4 for our maintenance. And then we drill down to some of the campus specific as well. And again, this area, the top left box, doesn't change. That's our 4-year strategic plan. Those are our 4-year goals. But then we drill down and we talk a lot about defined autonomy. And so the defined is everybody has the same process of now what our SMART goals look like and how we put that in, and they all align up, if you will, to the district goals. And so you can see some of the specifics of Rose Garden and particularly how the reading impacts them. But then they also can, that autonomy is what is specific to them. You know, we might have a specific number. We have an 86% on our reading goal this year. Well, a campus may be above or below that. We want that goal to be reachable for them. You know, again, it's attainable. And so, again, if they're already sitting at an 88, they're not going to set their goal lower. They're going to set that goal higher. And so you can see how each campus individualizes that, but there is that alignment piece and that learning piece moving towards that integration piece of each of those scorecards. And so this is an example of one of our elementary schools, priorities 1, 2, and 3. We're working on priority 4 in each of those areas. This is an example from one of our high schools. We had the opportunity to visit with Byron Steele here recently. And again, you can see in this top left box, that pretty much didn't change. But what each of those other boxes are, that's that autonomy. What is specifically related to that organization, that school, that department, and what they want to be working on as a part that leads to a whole. In that, and again, 1, 2, 3, and we're working with our campuses on 4. Again, they're looking at their Intergage survey, their workplace, what used to be the workplace dynamic survey, but it aligns with the goals that we set. Again, going back to the district scorecard. And this is an example of even drilling down further with that alignment process. A little bit different format, but this, for Byron Steele, they've actually drilled down, and some of our campuses are moving forward with this. We wanted them to get the campus scorecard, and if they could work on their departments, they can do that as well. But you can see here, Byron Steele has this is their campus information, but the next pages show how they've drilled that down all the way to their departments. So the math department, they're definitely supporting the district goals, but they also have had the autonomy to add some specific goals related to math. They're going to support the reading, but they're also looking at some of their math goals, whether it's related to STAR scores, ELC, whatever that may be. And so, again, we're really getting down to the detail of this work. Science has set their own goal on the biology EOCs, things that are specific to them, but also how they're working on that. What are the actions? What are the results? How are they measuring that? And you can see each of the areas in science has also reflected how they contribute to the whole of biology, which contributes to the whole of the campus, which contributes to the whole of the district in that. Social studies the same way. ELA, same process, specifically related to some of those reading and college career and military readiness goals that we have as part of our district goal. So we just wanted to show you a little bit about how we've taken our strategic plan and continue to drill that down all the way. And we talk a lot about as top down as necessary, only as top down as necessary and as bottom up as possible. And you can see the campus is working on that ground floor, setting their SMART goals, being very strategic in what they want to accomplish, how they're going to accomplish it, and how they're going to measure along the way. So we wanted to share that with you. The next few months, we'll come back and do priority reports. What is our progress at this point? How, and that's an involvement with Team 1 on our deployment of that.
Yeah, and Dr. Edwards, to that
Yes, sir.
point, can you go up to the district scorecard? And on
Yes, sir.
page 21 in the board book, just to illustrate that point concretely that Dr. Edwards is mentioning. So, the upper left-hand corner is very quantitative, and the lower left-hand quadrant of the priority 1 is very quantitative, and the lower right-hand quadrant is very quantitative. Those are things that we can go grab a number. The upper right-hand, the key strategic actions, is somewhat qualitative. So in October, you'll see this on priority 1, red, yellow, green, and that will be based on Team 1's analysis next Tuesday. So those key, just like you saw Mr. Mosley's, y'all have already done that process at the level of your department. So you've already scored those. Saw some red, that meant, we wrote that goal and it's time to get going. That's exactly right. And there's nothing wrong with red. It just means a quarter's going to go by here and we're not going to have started it. So I just wanted to show that in way of illustration. And I'm not saying that 3-ring binders kill plans, but historically with district and campus plans, putting it in a 3-ring binder and putting it on the shelf is the surest way to mean that you don't really intend to do anything with it. And so our goal with this is to keep these electronic, keep them fluid, and not only is it okay for them to change quarterly, it's actually expected for them to modify quarterly.
Yes, sir. And we mentioned the continuous improvement, those quarterly continuous improvement visits. And each of those we've talked about the fact that, if we're a learning organization, if we're a listening and learning organization, we're adapting all along the way. The static is what we want to achieve in 4 years. Everything else is how we're going about doing that in year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4, and we're going to constantly adjust in order to meet our goals and adjust to the needs of the campuses. So it's been a great exercise. Again, we set the expectation that the campuses have the scorecard. We gave the possibility of drilling that down even to the departments, and you can see that some of the campuses are doing that already with grade level, but that's a listening and learning. That's a growing organization. We're going to continue to get there, but it's real neat to see this and see the alignment in all of our SMART goal processes that lead ultimately to what we want to achieve as a district, and the collective commitment that goes into there. And each campus and each department, each organization can see how the role they play in us accomplishing our goals. And I think that's pretty unique, if you will, to a lot of school districts for us to be able to do that. So we wanted to share just a little bit more about our processes with a scorecard. And like I said, each month for the next several months, we'll come back and share a little bit about our progress along the way. Some of it may be quantitative, some of it may be qualitative, but we do take those measurements.
Any discussion, comments?
Dr. Edwards, I have a question about priority 1.3. The annually increase the percentage of students who understand and exemplify the SCUC traits of a graduate. It's under the district scorecard. How would that be analyzed, and how would that be quantitated as far as, your first discussion is going to be in October on this priority 1 and goal 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3. How is that going, how are you going to be able to do that moving forward?
Well, our formative measures along the way could include student surveys that are taking place, different types of just formative assessments like that. I know our athletics, fine arts, and some of those areas are building some of those into, whether it's the end of an activity, end of a sport. Also going through, at the end, ultimately, it will be part of our survey information, and do our students understand what those traits are. This first year, we really wanted it to be an increase the percentage of students who understand that and exemplify that. And so there's multiple ways we're going about doing that. This work is really being led by Cassandra Gracia, along with everybody contributing to that, how we're embedding that into our curriculum. As parts of that, there may be assessments in class that align to that, or examples of how learning this concept, how does that attribute to or contribute to the traits of a graduate. So some of them, as Dr. Gibson mentioned, are going to be a qualitative type measure, and we're seeing those things, and others may be actually quantitative in some of the survey data and some of those type of things.
For this first year, they may be pretty simple, and that's okay. For example, they could report that 100% of the Student of the Month recognitions included traits of a graduate after tonight, because I heard both of them weave the traits of a graduate into their introductory comments, and I'm serious about that. Right now, it's about awareness. Mr. Linhoff, as coaches, introducing these concepts. You know, that may be that they say we're going to try to do that at 100% of the coaches will introduce the traits of a graduate, and it's a great question, Mr. Pivito. I just want to prepare the board and maybe manage expectations that in year one, that's pretty rudimentary as you get something.
And that's why I brought it up. I wouldn't expect to see a whole lot in October. Now, I know you're going to come back in March with 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Again, I would expect you probably see a little bit more information then. Are you able to do anything now, Ms. Gracia, as far as getting any determination, or is that built from last year's graduating class and moving forward with this year's graduating class? Or? You understand what I'm saying?
So we're going to set a baseline with Panorama, our new platform. It actually is an SEL measure, and it does take snapshots of where the students are at, and then it gives that whole child approach. So it will put up academics and attendance, behavior with their SEL learning. And so what we've done is we've crosswalked the traits of a graduate with the SEL components in the counseling program, and we're giving the teachers tools to implement some strategies, and hopefully their SEL growth goes up and not down. So that's another way of measuring that. So we'll set our baseline here probably in October.
Okay, you used 6 or 7 terms that went right over my head.
Well,
but that's okay.
SEL is social emotional learning.
As Mr. Westbrook likes to point out, when I was in school, we used a clay tablet with a little, it's okay.
Mr. Pivito, another way that we're doing that is our counselors are including those in their guidance lessons. So we're hitting it from a multitude of ways, both from the curricular standpoint. Our content coordinators are working with our teachers to embed that in our curriculum where it fits in certain areas, in all areas. Our guidance lessons, we've got a real push with our counselors and utilizing their roles for what they're intended to be, and this being a part of the guidance lessons on there, our extracurricular activities, a variety of things. We've had elective teachers that are reaching out to us saying, hey, I've included this and embedded this in my lessons with little tokens or medallions or different things that they're using and utilizing. So it's really caught on, and we see a lot of momentum with that, and we want to keep that momentum.
Yeah, I see often on Twitter our graduates who have gone on and are now graduating from college, and I always think about that. Is what got that person through, and what made them want to achieve, and hopefully we had something to do with that. So I'm looking forward to getting this information. I think this is really good information to have moving forward. So thank you. I appreciate it.
We also expect to see that in our community surveys, parent community surveys as well, that they're also, and they have been acknowledging that, hashtag tweeting it, various ways that they've also been saying, hey, we love this. We were at this meeting and they talked about that, and those type of things.
Yeah. Okay.
So
thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I will ask sort of three questions. I don't know how they, in which order. So on the district scorecard, priority one, the key annual progress monitoring measures, how are those weighted? Like, are they all given equal weight whenever you determine, like, is student surveys weighted or more valuable than the student reports, or no?
No, they're just all ways to measure that. There's not a criteria or anything that has been established with that. They're just different ways to measure the totality of that.
So you just take all that information, and then, so how do you determine if it's working or not, or success?
Well, those are leading indicators. The
student surveys?
Yeah, the monitoring measures are leading indicators. So it's just saying, instead of us using words to say, hey, everything's going great, we try to quantify it.
Mhm.
So it's like, prove it up. Give
So
us a
you-
number.
so-
If it's going great, show me a number.
Yeah, and so one of the ways we've talked about is that you can actually quantify qualitative data if you debate based on the information. So, and I will say this, this is the first year process for us, so I'd love to be able to sit here and answer specifically every one of those questions, but as we talked about, this is a learning process. It's first year. It's the first year that we've drilled down to this level when you look at that, and so we're gonna learn and grow. We'll take what works for us, and we'll continue it. We'll take what doesn't, and we'll adjust. And like I said, it may be that we adjust after the first quarter, second quarter, end of the year.
Okay. Explain universal screener. What is this?
The universal screener, and we'll let them jump in. Basically, we just went through that RFP process on that within the last, well, actually, it seems like the last 36 months. But it's part of how we measure learning for our students at multiple levels. So, Ms. Kovacs, Ms. Goldhorn, you want to jump in and share that?
A universal screener is used for math and for reading specifically, and it's taken 3 times a year, beginning, middle, and end of the year for all students up until grades 9th grade, I think is what we've established for this year, so pre-K through 9th grade. They take the universal screener's assessment, that they take a quick assessment on the computer, and it gives a baseline for a teacher to understand where their student sits in the area of reading, in the area of math. And from that universal screener, it helps to guide the teacher's instruction moving forward and helping that student to grow in their learning.
So last year, you're probably familiar, we used iStation to determine our progress on one of our goals, and that was second grade reading. As Ms. Goldhorn said, we started off with the beginning of the year where the students were coming into us, where they were in the middle of the year, where they were at the end of the year. So we used that iStation data. That's what we reported out to the board. Now we're using NWEA or MAPS for the academic part of that. Ms. Gracia mentioned Panorama. We're also using that as a screener for the social-emotional part of that because the emphasis now we have on ensuring students are also making progress in that area. So that those two are what we would consider universal screeners, and they measure where we are beginning, middle, and end of the year. So that's a specific quantitative number that we can provide.
Okay. Well, I do appreciate that, because I think the goal is to get everybody on, reading on level by 3rd grade or something to that effect, because anything after that is sort of detrimental. The next one was Panorama. I did have a question about Panorama, but that's sort of like the universal screener, except for
social emotional learning.
Social emotional learning, and it's helped establish a baseline. So once you establish a baseline, then for the next 2, 3, 4 years, for the life of this strategic plan, we can sort of gauge, our progress more or less.
Right. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, the toughest question is, how would you determine failure, and not necessarily failure, how would you determine not as much success? I've read two monetary books so far. The one Dr. Gibson gave us maybe a year or two ago, then one that Paige Maloney gave us. At some point in time, you have to determine what's working and what's not, and so how do you determine if it's not working?
Well, part of it is you see the data. The data tells you whether it's working or not working. When we look at, if you're talking about a screener or something to that effect, that's not necessarily a program to determine whether it's working. That's going to give us the data to determine whether or not what we're doing is working in that sense. Are we making the gains that we need to do? That's an assessment tool. And so that's one way that we will measure that progress along the way. We talked about student satisfaction, parent satisfaction, all of the employee satisfaction, all of those have quantitative numbers that we can go back and look at and determine whether or not we're making progress. When we look at our Intergage survey data, those numbers, and that's where when we talk about the SMART goal, it's specific and it's measurable in order to determine whether or not what we're doing are making gains. We also do that informally. We do district services surveys. We do informal surveys along the way. We do interim surveys like the Intergage. We're going to poll our DIC to determine is what we're doing working at a midpoint instead of getting to the end and say, well, we really hoped that worked the whole year. So those are where those assessments along the way, those formative measures come in.
And to answer that question, though, to expand on what Dr. Edwards just said, so the staff will produce the results for the board to look at this coming January. What is being created right now is a real transparent way for you to look at the associated costs. Because in order to determine return on investment, you have to make a determination if that cost is worth that number that we've achieved.
Exactly. And maybe my memory's bad, and it probably is. I played too much football. But here's what I would say is I cannot recall a time where the administration ever said, this absolutely did not work and we need to move forward and find something different. It's always sort of a justification for moving forward or tweaking what's there. But year in, year out, you know what I'm saying, by the end of this strategic plan, we're 4 years into a strategic plan, and we're still monitoring and developing and tweaking. And
no, we've let a lot of things go during the course of the last strategic plan, I assure you. And we could start making reports for those. I think that for this strategic plan, the way it's being structured and the way the budget workshops are being structured, that will be the process. You'll see the cost associated with each number that we're achieving. The board will.
And we do things like looking at moving from iStation. We didn't feel like that was giving us all the data that we needed, so looking for a different tool. They were able to submit a bid, and we looked at them again, but felt like this particular universal screener was going to give us more in the situation of reading and math. The SEL was a new screener for us. And so, do we let go of things? If you're going to let go of something, you also have to be looking at what's going to replace it, and is it better? And that's a sign of that continuous improvement. Are we looking for not just a change, but is there something out there that's going to give us a better yield and return on investment for each of those specific priorities?
And we had, my memory serves me correctly, people show up at public comments about things that we were proposing to let go.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we didn't let it go. So when 10 parents show up, that's a longer discussion. We'll go on. It's
different report.
Yeah, it's a different.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have a report, September 2018 construction update. Mr. Pruski and Mr. Mosley.
Good evening. We'll be doing, as you mentioned, the September construction report for Bond 2016 items. As a reminder, Clemens High School additions and renovations, the Rose Garden replacement, HVAC replacement, technology, and transportation. Of this list here of those 5 projects, as you know, Rose Garden is opened and done and completed, and we're working warranty items there, so I may just go through there for the sake of time, unless you want to stop and discuss any issues on Rose Garden or questions you may have. HVAC replacement for Jordan Watson Wilder, same thing, warranty items and final closeout documents, those are complete there. And then transportation complete as well. So moving forward with Clemens High School, again, a reminder, 2020 projected completion date. So while a lot has been done, there's still a lot to go, and most of it being on the inside. Moving forward, some of the items there, the event center turned over in August, while we're still working on some small things around there, such as entryway, limestone, column wraps. The auditorium, as mentioned, coming forward in November 2018. And then the interior renovation, where a lot of the work is going on now inside. And this is a very arduous process working with a live campus. So taking out the old, bringing in the new, and working through that in a safe manner. And then also interior demolition with the old gym in the C area. The auditorium's gone. The shell of the old auxiliary gym is still there, and then moving forward through that piece. So just as a reminder, there's the overlay of the campus. And then I think we've all seen these before, so unless there's questions, I was just going to go through some of these pretty quickly. The views of the campus there, the auditorium and the gym side. And then the inside of the auditorium now is taking shape. The picture on the left, you can see the seating going on in there, and then on the right, the framework going on for the black box theater as well. So same kind of configuration as what we have at Steele High School. This is the aforementioned inside. This left picture, that's a corridor. Those are the teacher mailboxes on the far left. And then to the right, that is plywood partitions there for doorways and windows that are coming forth. And then you can see what they're kind of blocking is these pictures that you'll see now going to the right, the work going on inside. So trying to keep people safe and having a barrier there. And then this is what I was kind of talking about. There's a lot happening inside there. It's totally changed, and the transformation is continuing. This is also inside in the B area. You just kind of see a bunch of metal studs and, you know, a lot of work happening there. I hope in the next couple months we can start seeing some formation of the areas and have some better ideas. So this is of what's going on there. This is the old auditorium. Removed, and then you can kind of see back here in the middle, this dark shade, that's the old, the auxiliary gym. So the area getting cleaned out and ready for work here to go forward. So then as a reminder, this will be the courtyard with the outdoor seating and shade structures throughout this area here. It's kind of a better picture of, you can see the kind of hollowed out area there of the gym, and getting ready to start moving forward there with the culinary arts and the wellness labs and CTE areas, including HOSA. So that was Clemens in a nutshell there, and I can pause there or just keep on going if there's no questions on Clemens. So the next piece of this, wanted to give a brief update for the band hall. As you recall, the conceptual plan was approved last month, and we're moving forward with the design aspect of this. So moving forward here, briefly a schedule of what's to come. There's a plan of the upcoming months. So currently we're in the September, so we're kind of around a 50% document review, and that's a metric on the planning phase. A lot still is going through. We're basically maybe halfway, but I wouldn't even say, well, I'll say it, it's 50. But looking forth on the highlighted areas, there are the items that will be coming forth before the board. While we will keep you updated through the progress, as you see there, final design discussion in November, and then final design action for December to allow us to go out and put the documents out on the street in January. And the bidding process then, having the discussion for the solicitation award in January, and then awarding the project in February of 2019. That allows us a quick setup and start time, notice to proceed in March. So the band hall to take place, so starting there before school starts in order to have substantial completion in July. And that's going to be pushing it. So there's some parts of this as I go through the next slide there on the plan. This may actually, to be totally transparent, substantial completion may be in July, but we may not have the whole thing complete until probably August. So just, you know, and that's the plan at this point in time at 50% drawings. So on the left is kind of the conceptual plan, kind of stayed the same. We're staying in that number one fashion, so to speak. But in looking at some things, we looked at an area to make some positive changes and actually add on to the band hall itself. And this area below the line here would be in addition to the band hall itself. I think I did that right. And if you can orient the orange in that lower box, that's the current orchestra. Mike, help me out there, orchestra area. I wanted to make sure I picked the right program. But what we did, and what the design team did, is they flipped it 90 degrees, and with that additional area, we're capturing some additional storage. And as you may recall, storage is a big component and a big concern for the program. We have adequate space for the program itself, but moving forward, the need for storage is there as well. So just to orient you, the baby blue, those are the practice rooms, and they're more disseminated throughout the programs now. The current setup now, the practice rooms are set upstairs above, in this area above the main hall. And this being the band hall 1, or rehearsal hall 2, and then now the rehearsal hall 3 by plan. And entry being from the courtyard as it is now on the east side, plan east, but still having the access areas and exits on the west, or I'm sorry, come on, Pruski. This is east, this is west. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. And then still having this access, the main access back here to from the office side. We are not complete here. Like I said, this is kind of an area, and working with Mr. Leip and through the communication channels there, this storage being on one side, and then the rehearsal halls and the practice areas there being on, as noted there in the baby blue. This also then will encroach upon some of that dirt area that you saw from the Clemens report, the courtyard. So we are going to encroach a little bit, roughly about 20 to 24 feet into there, into this area. So again, this would be a new piece. So what does that do to the band hall? We're looking at the addition being about 2,300 square feet, and then totally on the add for storage of about another 2,000 square feet. And then wanted to also mention, we are considering into this red box up here, also, let me do that again. This is on the outside of the band hall, behind the auditorium now. There's going to be a planned grass area back there, basically a big triangle-shaped area, and we're looking there to put in some storage for a storage building or some sort of storage, for lack of a better word, I'll keep it at a building, but not a true, two-story type building, but a storage building there for the fine arts program to include band as well as campus storage. So let me see. Yep. So there is basically where we're at today, at roughly 50%. We're still trying to make the pieces work and the storage work. And are there any questions on the band hall aspect? Okay. So moving forward, Rose Garden, as a reminder, Rose Garden dedication is this Thursday. So we'll get to be there for the formal dedication of the campus. It is 100% complete, and as mentioned, we're going through the warranty process on that campus and doing the closeout process there as well, which could take a while too. That takes a couple months. So we'll just cut through some of these. Watts Wilder Jordan, as mentioned, complete, moving forward, going through closeout process and warranty, so tidying that up. Technology, working on the retrofit of the classrooms. It is a 3-year project, utilizing combs, also with the network infrastructure and the phone replacement throughout the district. So the monthly look ahead, phone replacements by campuses beginning in the week of September 24th. The network infrastructure is being installed, that is initiated, and then panels complete, and looking in the planning for phase 2 begins in October for those campuses receiving the panel displays. So as a reminder, we haven't seen this, and I just wanted to do this month to remind where we are in the facility master plan process. Everything to the right of this first green bar, being the bond, is pretty much engaged, complete, or in process. Clemens being still active, and technology being still active. And then we're looking at this proposed, these are areas now that are just planned. Nothing's been formally proposed yet. But you can see the district planned needs for campuses. And I want to draw just a brief attention to, while we finished Rose Garden and it's open, we get a little breath, but then we're looking at the elementary school, the potential of a third high school opening the year after that elementary school. But right between there, we're watching this very carefully of the intermediate and the junior high campuses. Those, as you can see, are not colored in. So we're doing the data, watching the information, that being our enrollment. And then looking further down on the plan, you can see through there the CTE. And this is technology, land, the purchasing of transportation, and then the HVAC as well, and the bond. It overlaps, as you can see, to another bond referendum possibly in the 2023 timeline to also deal with items after that. So,
and Mr. Persky, if I
yes,
may,
sir.
the other night, what I think I heard our financial advisor say is his thoughts are that those two green lines, the middle one and the one on the right,
Yes,
may have to shift at least 1 year to the right.
Right.
That's what I heard him say.
Right.
Okay.
So I was going to close with that. So while this is a draft, these green bars could slide depending on the data available to us as well as the financial shape or structure of the district. So I just wanted as a reminder on the facility master plan of what we're following and what we're doing onto that piece as well. That's the driver of these bond project or the bond program as well. That is all. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Mr. Brewski, how are construction prices going right now?
They're going up.
Well, yeah.
It's
quite a bit. Are we talking about a kind of this kind of curve, or
more of the it's kind of hard to pinpoint, but I think we're going to normalize back down to the 4 to 5 to 6. We kind of had that preliminary jump after Harvey, and then watching those, it could be dependent on they have a hard time of actually bringing prices back down. So once they kind of get up there, they kind of like to hold that and then continue to grow. I believe we're still moving forward with a 5 to 7 inflationary rate onto that. And it also depends on materials and design. Hope I answered that to a point.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Any other comments?
The next one also, I just wanted to jump in there. There's a 13 project, the aforementioned, as Dr. Gibson mentioned when we were recognizing HR. The Pascal and Malish HVAC replacement is now half on Pascal, is half done as it's the summer project. That crew is now here at Malish working forward, and then next we'll move forward onto that. So Dr. Gibson's division as well as Ms. Cannon's is using the former old Rose Garden campus for office space right now while we're working here. So JD, anything to add on to that?
We're looking at hopefully the Malish being done sometime, probably hopefully late November is kind of what we're looking at right now.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we will have Linda Cannon present for the annual report on staff code of ethics.
Good evening, President Westbrook, Dr. Gibson, and members of the board. In the board's good governance self-check, there is a criteria for consideration that the board receives an annual report regarding the code of ethics deployment for staff members in the organization. And so going forward, we will present an annual report in August, and we will place that in the board master calendar so that you do receive a report on an annual basis. However, our deployment of the Code of Ethics, the Educator's Code of Ethics, is found in Policy DH, and we do expect all of our employees, no matter what department they work for, what their title is within the school district, everybody is expected to follow the Educator's Code of Ethics. At the beginning of the school year, we roll these out through compliance courses. There's several different courses that all employees are required to take. These are online. One of those courses is the Code of Ethics, and then there is an affirmation statement that they sign off on, the employees do, that they will follow the Code of Ethics. When we have any suspected breaches in the Code of Ethics, we always investigate. Typically, whether it happened in a department or on campus, typically HR is going to help lead that process within the district and help out the campuses and departments, and then follow up with any consequences as far as the Code of Ethics goes, if necessary. Any potential breaches that employees or community members or parents see that could be a breach of the Code of Ethics, we do have a hotline that is anonymous, that is, if you go to the A to Z index on our website, there's ethics hotline, and they can access the phone number, and they can remain anonymous, or they can actually put their name in there that we can contact back to them. That is followed up with a report given to us through a website, and then typically I access that and then route it out to the campus or department to make sure that we follow up with that. Employees or community members can also verbally give us a report with the Code of Ethics. If they're going to do that, we typically ask them we'll either take a statement from them, or we will, interview them to get a statement, or they can submit in writing to us any breaches. Yearly with Team 1, we do review the Code of Ethics, because we expect our leaders in the district to go back to the campuses and lead the effort of following and maintaining our Code of Ethics across the district. And we've also embedded this in our new hire orientation for all the new employees, but we've also embedded that just recently in our substitute orientation. They're given a copy of the Code of Ethics, and they sign an affirmation statement saying that they understand and will follow the Code of Ethics. So we've done a lot of work to make sure that people understand what those Code of Ethics are, where they're located, and that any behaviors that we see that are potential of violation of it, we're going to act on those behaviors at any point in time.
Any discussion or comments? Thank you very much. Next on the agenda item is basically a general review of the 2018 Tacit-TASB Convention. So every year, Tacit-TASB has a general convention. The team of 8 generally goes if they are available to go. We are able to obtain continuing education credit hours that usually reported towards the end of the year, November, December. I think the regulations have recently changed. They're supposed to be reported before any election. So they're going to be updated in roughly around October, November. And I think this allows us an opportunity to discuss as a board if there's anything that we need to concentrate on based upon our future needs and values for the district. I know we're going to have an oncoming onboarding, a new board member, but I think between Dee Dee and Priscilla, they'll take care of her sort of needs for continuing education and probably recommend some stuff to her. But if there's any comments about Tacit-TASB coming up, or any needs that we probably need to address, I'm open to it. Is everybody going? Who's not going? John's not going? I'm not. So there's 4 of us that are going. In. Has Leticia Seaver, Miss Seaver, ever expressed interest? So she may be going also. I do know we have a football game on Friday night. There was one, after doing Superintendent of the Year interviews, there was one, I believe, through a friend of Dr. Gibson's, Dr. Vroomland. Is it Vroomland? He is having a presentation on basically trying to find a way for the board to become accredited, sort of board accreditation. It was a novel idea. I think we were all sort of in the forefront of sort of doing well as a board and doing, board good governance as a board, and so this might give it a little different perspective. So I'm going to try to attend. If not, it's a novel idea to sort of have a board accredited, not just each individual or good governance. I think it's taking good governance a step further. He's going to have a presentation with his board and in the district. It's a board accreditation. So.
And I have spoken with him, and he and I did our master's degree program in Wichita Falls, Texas. Deanna was not on the news while we were doing that, but
But thank you very much. I don't know what it entails, but
Was Wichita Falls really a place back then in those days?
It was.
I'm sure it
Mighty
wasn't a place
fine.
until Miss Jackson showed up.
Mr. Westbrook, does the district have any presentations?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Friday afternoon, 2 and 2:30, we're presenting on the metamorphosis of my appraisal instrument, its alignment to the scorecard and to the TASB document. And they've done it a little bit differently this year. It's a back-to-back presentation, each 30 minutes long. So they're doing kind of like a school district spotlight on Friday afternoon. So we're part of that. We are leaving here, I think, about 7 a.m., at least Mr. Asbeck and I, if not some other ELT members. And the second presentation is over with, we're heading right back for a football game. If anybody wants to get in that vehicle with us. That was your offer, or my offer.
next we have this will be board member annual training report, generally presented in November. It's going to be next November, I guess. Priscilla will have all the data in November for all of the, more or less, I think all board members have met their training requirements so far, from my understanding. So
yeah, we have, so that we, now that we have our new trustee appointed, we were going to do the second half of our team of 8. Is that right?
And as far as other training, I think everybody has their, all of their training completed except Mr. Finley, I believe, needs hours. And I think Mr. Peavington might be short on a quarter hour, but everybody else has over their 5 hours as a seasoned trustee that they're required to do in that tier 3.
For the year?
Pardon me?
For the year?
Yes.
I had 4 hours at summer, and I know I had 5 or 6 last year.
But it starts from November 1st of last year through October of this year, as far as our reporting.
Oh, that's wrong.
So
I'm sorry.
it would include the convention, is what you're saying, right?
Yes, it will include any credit that you get during this.
Okay, I'm gonna go to a meeting, I'm just gonna stay a quarter of the time. That's all I can get.
How many hours do I have right now? I need to get 10. How many hours? I had some hours from NSA.
Right.
Well, I was in NSBA for like 2 different classes, so it should be there somewhere. Okay.
He was with me, so I'll vouch for him. So we will find those. We did, yeah.
10, yeah. I'll get that. If I don't get, doesn't show up, I'll get it at convention. So. Okay, very good. Okay, thank you.
next, we will have an update from the policy committee. I believe this was requested by Trustee Carew at one point in time concerning CW local naming of facilities. Who attended the meeting was myself, Mr. Finley, and Irene Patrisky, who's not here. Did you want to give an update of sort of the naming policy?
This was really just to go back to the policy. We had originally thought that this was going to be a situation where we would go ahead and not name anything for anybody that was still, was not deceased. So we thought we had implied that in the policy we had done 3 or 4 years ago. So this was really a measure to try and clean that up and say, okay, we're going to go ahead and make the policy actually policy-wide so that anybody that would be named for would have to be deceased. And that was kind of the impression I got. If I remember correctly from 4 years ago, that was kind of what we thought we had put in there, but I guess we didn't put it in there specifically enough. We implied it, but we didn't put it in there explicitly. So that's really what this is about at this point. And if you see the policy, that's really what it does. It just simply says that any person named would be deceased before they would be named and be considered. So that's really what it was about.
Well, I was against this policy 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm still against it, and I'm certainly going to be against anything that creates a situation where a person has to be deceased to have something named for. Half the buildings in the school district, if not 3/4 of them, would not be named if we had that part in our policy at that time. I think we're eliminating a great many opportunities when we do something so restrictive like this, and I don't see the need for it. I just don't. I think the policy is restrictive enough, the way it's set out, and how elementaries can be named, secondary schools can be named. That's pretty restrictive. So I think the policy as it stands is fine, but that's just my opinion.
Any other comments?
Mr. Pivotal, believe it or not, I'm going to agree with you. Yeah, this, for those of you that are kind of relatively new, I mean, we probably had no more controversial topics over the years, or at least the years I've been on the board, than this naming policy, quite honestly. Probably nobody would even recognize this today, but probably the most controversial topic we've ever had was the naming of Steele High School. I mean, it was to the point of being ridiculous. I mean, we must have had 400 people in the auditorium at Dobie. I mean, it was bad. And today, nobody in the right mind would change that name. I mean, it's an iconic name across the state. And we've had several issues over the years where people get really upset about this whole thing about naming our facilities. I know we've changed this policy a half a dozen times. I'd be much more in favor of a relatively flexible policy, one that does allow discretion with the board. I agree with Mr. Pivotal. It's already too limited. I mean, now to say someone has to be deceased, I mean, I don't know. That's just, you know, like you said, half of our facilities wouldn't have been named what they were if you had to be deceased. As a compromise, I'm somewhat okay with you can't name it after a current employee. I mean, I think we had that issue a few years ago, and that may just be questionable form to name it after somebody who's still employed by the district. But to say you have to be deceased, I mean, I just think that's way too limiting. I'm sure we can think of people who maybe, you know, the community wants to name a building after somebody, the board wants to name it after somebody, but, well, you just can't do it until they pass away. I mean, by that point, they may be a forgotten person or who knows what. So I think it's just way too limiting. I mean, it takes away the discretion from the board. I mean, we're all educated people. I assume we'll have educated, reasonable trustees in the future that they can make those decisions based on who the name happens to be. So, yeah, I wouldn't be in favor of this the way it's written either.
Any other comments?
I have to agree. If we had a graduate from one of our schools that did something fantastic and we couldn't name it after them until 80 years later when they passed away, I think that's way too restrictive.
It's just a discussion item, as Dr. Gibson. It'll come back next month. My take is that it might be restrictive for another reason, because we already have another policy in place whereby naming has to go through another committee. And then the committee can then eliminate and then suggest names to the board for, for approval. So if the board decides that a name is not good enough or not, then that's the committee, and it'll eventually come back to the Board of Trustees for approval. So I think there's already a policy to sort of address, if somebody's worthy or not. So, but just a discussion item. Any other comments?
I guess my question would be, what was the basic or premise about why this came about? I mean, what brought that restriction?
Which restriction?
You must be deceased first. I mean, I understand it. I know in some respects, I get it. But just, was there a situation that came about, or what led to it?
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think when we discussed this, I think the original reason, and like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, was that it was to limit the possibility of naming it after somebody, and then next thing you know, something comes up with that person, and oh, we shouldn't have named that, and now they're having to go back and rename a high school after somebody or something because of something happened. I think that was the discussion we had of why it was deceased. Maybe if we looked at just different options, and I'm just throwing these out there because obviously it's my last night, but instead of saying that they're deceased, adding time limits to it. Instead of saying, you said a former employee or whatever, or a former student, I think that's great. I think that's what they did in Judson. But, adding maybe a time limit, so that way they don't turn around the very next year and name a high school after somebody that, did something or whatever. And then the only other thing is maybe clarifying a little bit, because I don't think this clarifies everything that we name. So maybe clarifying what a facility is. Right now, it just talks about a building or whatever, so those would be my recommendations.
We can certainly take it back to the policy committee and work on some more and see if it'll
Yeah,
pass.
so I could agree with Mr. Cruz said. I mean, I think we had an issue a few years ago. Just, you hate to put an employee in a tough spot, too. If somebody nominates them and now you got to possibly say no, not because you don't want to respect or honor that particular employee, but just because you think it's not really appropriate to name something after somebody who's still working for us. You know, I mean, there needs to be some kind of separation from the district, 5 years or what have you, whether that's a trustee or whether that's an employee or what have you. But yeah, I think to make them deceased, I mean, that's just, we could have some graduate land on the moon or something at age 25, and you're going to sit there and say you can't name a building after him for another 60 years, and by then we're all gone. It's just, I don't think that's really appropriate. So I would say at least have some separation from the district for some period of time.
If we may, Mr. Westbrook, so the process would be to bring it back as an action item as it exists right now next month and see what that vote is, and then see if a trustee, depending on that vote, wants to have further discussion.
That's a process, but I'm, all right.
And also, let me throw up too. I mean, I may have missed some of these meetings, but we also got to be careful, because I know this happened in the past too, of when somebody's name has been submitted for consideration, and then we somehow appear to be changing the policy in the middle of the process. I don't know if that's taking place right now or not either, but we need to have some kind of restriction on this, that we do this on an annual basis or whatnot as far as our naming of facilities, but try to steer clear of changing the policy while we're undertaking possibly naming a facility or school after somebody in the process. I mean, does that make sense? I don't know if that's what we're doing right now, but I think we may have done that the last time, and I just don't think that's the appropriate way to do it either.
That's what happened when we were naming Cibolo Valley Elementary. We were trying to name an elementary school, and then we decided to go through a naming the facility policy change at the same time, which was pretty awkward.
So what I will assure you is that staff will not put this on the agenda, ever. That you can count on. So it'll be at the board's discretion. This item will never be on this agenda from a staff recommendation. It will only be from the board's discretion.
Well, yeah, but you have anything? That'll be fine, but in the meantime, if it's up to me, to some extent, I'll try to remove this for an action item for next month and sort of send it back to the committee and sort of rework the fine language to address the issues that Mr. Carew and Mr. Emmons wanted to address, sort of time limit, come up with some options, and then present those options, because not that there's a vote, it's only a discussion item, but I'm sort of hearing a consensus that deceased should not be included in this policy. So we'll take it back to the committee. We'll move it back to the policy committee, if there's no.
We've covered item 7.
We've covered item 7. Procurement of goods and services, presented by Matt Rivera.
Mr. President, members of the board, at the present time, we have one solicitation out on the street. It's in support of our Human Resources Department we just honored tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Mrs. Keenan to explain what we're putting out.
Yes, we are looking for an RFP for our employee assistance program. This is an additional benefit to all staff members, not just those on our medical plan. It does provide services to our staff members who are in need of counseling for themselves or their family members. An employee assistance program also offers financial assistance, legal services, work and life services, and things such as stress management. They offer that to employees. They also offer things to the employer as far as presentations on these types of topics, if we feel like there's a need for a staff member to go through a program of some sort, we typically go through our EAP, the Employee Assistance Program, to do so. So we are requesting that RFP for those services.
Ms. Cannon, the current is it Deer Oaks?
It is Deer Oaks, yes.
Is this just a kind of a standard thing that's come out every now and then to go for another
Yes.
RFP to just see what's out there?
Yes, our current contract was for 5 years, and it's getting expired, so
Yeah.
we're
Okay.
just going to go out to the market again.
Okay. I've heard good things about Deer Oaks.
It's very good to work
okay.
with.
All right, thank you.
Any further discussion, comments? Thank you very much. Next, we have TASB policy review. Linda Cannon.
Yes, and you'll see in your board book attached to the list of the D policies that are being recommended for revision. These were based on help from our TASB Policy Service Review, and then we also had our District Policy Committee take a look at these D policies. These are for discussion tonight, and then we'll bring them back for action in October.
Just to emphasize one thing, you said the board policy committee did run through all these at their last meeting.
Any comments?
We did make some changes in here, and I think they're all in here. Yeah. We made a few-
Mostly the two we made changes to are the DEC policy that drives the local leave and state leave for our employees and the reimbursement upon separation, and the DNA policy, which is the T-test, and we wanted to make sure we were following the local admin reg that our committee came up with.
All right. You know, it was mostly wording, but it just cleaned it up, so, yeah.
Correct.
Correct, yes.
Any further discussion? Nope. Next, we will have discussion, board consideration and consensus on discussion items.
Yeah, and that, just by my count, so the CW local was moved to policy committee. The appraisal district board, I guess that's a question. Do you all want to have another discussion or put it on consent? Mr. Kern's request.
Mr. Kearns, that
Okay.
separate, okay.
So we'll leave it as not in consent, and then the policy D. I'm sensing maybe leave it on consent. Oh, I'm sorry, let me do employee assistance, sorry, I'll do them in order. Employee assistance program, that typically, something like that comes back on consent, and then we've typically put policy on consent, if everybody's okay with that.
All right, sounds good.
Okay.
And the CW is going back to committee.
Correct.
All right. What page are we on, 65?
Somebody shout out a page number.
67 is consent item.
Consent item.
67.
Is that what we're looking for?
Yes.
Yep. Does any board member want to pull any of these consent items?
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the consent agenda item as presented, starting on page 67.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent items, A through I, raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
And Mr. Westbrook, if I may, on the remaining action items, the first two are separate items. The first one you're used to seeing annually. Ms. Cannon will lay that out in a moment. Then Ms. Maloney, we had to accelerate this one, and there's a reason for that. She'll explain that, and that's a capital improvement project with the Guadalupe Appraisal District. And then 3 and 4 actually go together. And so I might ask if it's okay with the board to just have the discussion about both of those at the same time. Because if 4 is going to be considered, a budget amendment would have to be approved, and it has to be in this order. And so, in other words, budget improvement has to be approved before the board has to allot the money before they allot. So my recommendation is to have the discussion together and then back up and vote on 3 and vote on 4 in order.
Okay.
So is
No
Linda-
problems with that? That's okay? But now we're going to still have Linda Cannon, correct?
Yeah.
Request for maximum class size.
Yes, the district will need to submit a maximum class size exception waiver to the Texas Education Agency for the 18-19 school year. At this time, we have several classrooms that are over the state ratio of 22 to 1. in our kinder through fourth grade classes. This waiver will be based on the enrollment as of September 14th, last Friday. Requesting a waiver for our K-4 campuses is really a cost savings measure for our district. To meet the state ratio of 22-to-1 for all of our K-4 campuses, it would have required us to hire 14 additional teachers at that level. When you cost that out at a ratio of $65,000 per teacher, that's about $910,000 for this year alone. So over the years, we've been able to save, have some cost measures in place because of the ratio. We still do monitor the ratios, looking at numbers to make sure that they don't get too high. And then for each classroom that has a class size waiver in place, we do send letters to the parents so that they are aware they're over the 22-to-1 state mandate.
Mr. President, I move the Board of Trustees approve the 2018-2019 request for maximum class size exception waiver. Sorry.
I second.
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. When you send those letters out, do parents ever respond in the negative? Or is it common or not common, or?
I think it's pretty common. Most districts around us are asking for the same thing. I have not heard any negative comments from parents. I don't know if the principals have or not, but nothing has been elevated to my level that they've been upset about this.
Okay. So I guess the question is that when you send those out, not choosing the right words, not that they don't care, but nobody has a negative response that you're aware of.
And they're typically pretty happy with their teacher at that level for the most part. So
Sure.
They realize if we were to hire a teacher, we would be splitting classes. And so that'd be something to, I think, that why they may not say anything.
Perfect.
I know historically, we ask for this waiver pretty much every year, and it's granted every year as well, right? And I assume historically, this is something the state legislature put in place to ensure that districts didn't have 40 kids in a class or what have you, I mean, to create some kind of cap on this, but then it seems to me like every district asks for a waiver anyways. So,
And they do. Most districts around us are going to be asking for a waiver such as this.
yeah, okay. But again, so like Mr. Crow said, nobody really complains. I mean, we do have complaints that some of our classes are too crowded, but nobody complains about it at this level.
Not that it's been risen to my level.
Yeah, okay.
Well, the other question is, if parents, even though you sent it out, so you've never received any complaints from educators, from teachers? And that's sort of a trick question.
It is a trick question because would they like it to be 22-to-1? They sure would. But they do know that we're monitoring these numbers to where they're not going to get significantly higher than that 22-to-1 ratio. At second, third, and fourth grade, we've actually put the cap at 24-to-1, and so we do monitor it that way. Would they like it to go to 22-to-1? Sure, they would. But we're just trying to do what's best for the district at this point in time, and we believe that they're in a safe environment still with the caps that we've put on it.
And we'll look at staffing on October the 2nd. We'll look at not only K through 2, but we'll look at it district-wide at all levels, just as an information item.
Yep. So right now, it's going to affect these 8 schools for financial hardship is basically what you're saying, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? The ones
Yes,
listed?
every campus will have a waiver submitted. 65 classrooms across the district.
That's $65,000, according to the book that we were reading. Is that a fully loaded cost, or what else are we talking about? Is that just salary? Are we talking benefits, vacation, sick leave? That's the entirety?
That's the average that we budget a teacher for, based on our scale and benefits added into that.
Benefits.
So we could hire teachers that are above that, and we can hire teachers that are below that, but we budget at $65,000.
Thank you very much.
I would just like to thank Paige for providing that book to him. It's been very resourceful, and we appreciate that.
I'm only halfway done. Wait till the 2nd. It's going to be some fireworks, in a good way. In a good way. I'm sorry, Paige. I won't mention the book again. Oh.
Throw me under the bus.
Yeah, now we know.
Francisco, get the bus off of there.
It's gonna be an open book test, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I finally gave it to her.
Can I have the marked up book?
We've had a motion, a second, and a discussion. All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Motion passes 6-0. Oh, yeah, 6-0. Next, we'll have request for board approval, Guadalupe County Appraisal District, Paige Maloney.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Gibson, President Westbrook, members of the board. The Texas Property Tax Code details a very prescriptive process for improvement projects for county appraisal districts, and we were notified of this, and the explanation letter and the resolutions are attached. When we did go and consult our policy, sure enough, in there, in our CCH legal, and I'll quote it, that if the conveyance of real property or the construction or renovation of a building or other improvement by an appraisal district must be approved by the governing bodies of 3/4 of the taxing units entitled to vote on the appointment of appraisal district board members. So tonight, for them to be able to get started on their capital project, I believe it's a part of their parking lot, having a covered area to their parking lot is what they're doing. It's of no cost to us. We have our set costs for the appraisal districts that are preset prior to the school year. But by resolution, we are basically rubber stamping, okaying the fact that they can do this capital
So
project.
they're doing it within the budget that has already been provided to them,
Yes.
but by statute, they have to ask special permission for
Yes.
something that's capital improvement.
Yes, a prescriptive resolution. And it has the amount of the project in the resolution.
Can we have a motion?
Yeah, Mr. President, I move that the Board of Trustees approve by way of resolution the proposed Guadalupe Appraisal District Capital Improvements Project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
One thing I can tell you, the appraisal district is very good about spending their money. They do have, they go through a very long process looking at what they need, what their capital improvements are, the age of the building, how they take care of it. So having been over there for 2 years, I can tell you they are very conscientious about spending the money that they have. And if they're asking for it, I can assure you that they definitely need it. So I'd be wholly in favor of this. And since it's not going to cost us anything over and above what we already give them, then there's really no reason for us not to go in and approve this. But like I said, they're very frugal over there, so this is a good deal.
No further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Motion passes 6-0.
So Paige, if you will, just kind of outline the budget amendment and why, but don't ask Mr. Westbrook to ask for action. Let's move on and have a discussion about the other one, and then we'll consider them.
Sure. So the outline for the budget amendment, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Mosley to talk about the project, but we would basically be asking to a budget amendment in function 51 and 81 out of the general fund balance in the amount of $1,650,000 for the 18-19 expenditure projection plan, and that would be for the roofing, access control, and building finishes. And I believe that the roofing and the building finishes would be the capitalized projects for the 81, and the access control is in 51, am I correct? Okay, so I'll turn it over to Mr. Mosley for the details of that.
Good evening, Dr. Gibson, President Westbrook, members of the board. So the EPP item that we discussed last month is again back to us this evening for action. Just as a reminder, our EPP for the 18-19 school year was over $7 million through a collaborative prioritization with district admin. We are asking the board to consider the $1.65 million for the roofing, the access control, and the building refinishes. So just kind of as a reminder, we did a roofing assessment in 17. We do have a 10-year plan that outlines what repairs we need to do, what replacements we need to do, when those should happen, as well as our access control. We're down to 3 campuses that for our new access control system. And then our building refinishes, the district did an internal audit of our buildings, really starting with the painting of those buildings, but looking past the painting, and that's kind of why you see a little bit of a name change there. It's not really just painting, it's what's involved when you go to refinish a building, so that's an interior and exterior piece. And so I did put together a few pictures for the board this evening, just kind of lets you see what we're talking about when we talk about interior refinish and that kind of stuff, so I'll pull those up.
JD, while you're pulling it up, how old are the roofs that we're talking about?
They're going to vary in age. You know, we're looking at touching Watts, Wiederstein, Clemens, Marion Dulford, so definitely on the older side, but oddly enough, Wiederstein, one of our newer campuses, actually needs some work done. So it's just looking at priority and, you know, where the most buckets at and, you know, where we need to make sure that we're doing some repairs to avoid major stuff later. Like with Wiederstein, we want to take care of this now so it doesn't become a major issue later.
Got it.
So I'll just kind of walk you through these a little bit. Some of these may be a little bit hard to see, but when we talked about our repainting of our campus, we talked also about we've got wallpaper at Wilder and Jordan that's going to have to be removed in order to refinish these campuses, and I don't know why that came up. But you can see here, there's a corner here of that wallpaper split, and there's honestly really nothing you can do about that other than removing the wallpaper and refinishing the wall. This is just a picture of, you know, an example of door frames, you know. So when we go through a repaint a building, we're talking door frames, you know, all the trim work as well. You know, again, this is wallpaper at one of these two campuses, and you can see the staining on the back of the wallpaper. No matter how much you clean this, it's just going to look like that, and you're not going to get it any cleaner than that. So, you know, the end result, again, is you have to pull this off, and you have to refinish it. Here, just showing some bubbling, again, in those wallpaper areas. You know, the same thing we're talking about there. You can see some of our repair jobs here. You know, this is our staple repair. So when that wallpaper starts coming off, we've tried lots of different methods to try to keep the wallpaper on the wall, but you can kind of see that's what it looks like. Again, you get some stains on the walls, and you just cannot, you know, some of these things you can't get off. You can, again, a lot of our seams are where we're having a lot of the issues. So you can kind of see our staple repair. I would say a lot of these repairs are teacher completed repairs on some of these this wallpaper. So our teachers helping us out there, trying to keep it together for us. You know, same kind of issue there. So also talking about when we're refinishing the insides of the building, you know, we've got our wood doors that we need to take a look at our wood doors as well. And so, you know, while not every door would need to be touched, we are going to have some doors that are going to need to be pulled, sanded, refinished as part of those projects. Exterior-wise, it's kind of an example of exterior. You can kind of see some of the rust and corrosion that are going on here. We need to get paint on some of these exterior pieces before that leads to more problems as well. Just another picture of that also. Talking about roofing, you know, this last few weeks have put a real test to our roofing. Did want to show you a couple of the things that, you know, unfortunate things that we're doing to try to, you know, extend the life of as long as we have. But you know, what you're looking at here, this is a catch can with a hose on it up in the ceiling. You know, versus just replacing tiles often because we haven't been able to do the repairs. This is kind of some of the things that we've actually had to do to you know, avoid replacing tiles constantly. So again, you can see kind of a catch pan there with our spout there. Another picture, you can kind of see our catch bucket there so we can get the water out of there. We call them Bucket Brigade. Monday morning, Bucket Brigade was alive and well after our 3 inches this past weekend. So, you know, and again, you get the staining of the tiles in on our campuses. Just a picture of another bucket up there in the ceiling and more stained tiles. This is kind of, you know, and this doesn't tell a lot to a lot of people, but this is a picture of asphalt, one of the roofs that we would be looking at. This is the cracking of the asphalt, and it's really just kind of like cracking of asphalt that we drive on. You can kind of imagine as that cracks, it becomes, you know, it becomes brittle and it's not going to hold any longer.
Is that?
I'm sorry?
Is that Dalford, that old?
No, actually, I believe this is the field house over at Clemens.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Wow, okay. Oh, that's pretty old, too.
Yes, sir. and this is, you know, this is a cap sheet, and you can kind of see where the seams have pulled apart on those cap sheets. This is just an example of where water is ponding on the roof. Anytime you have water sitting, that's bad for us. This is actually a roof that is under warranty, but it doesn't cover us. It covers the materials of the roof, but we've got to get in there and repair it so the water doesn't pond on it, so that we can continue to maintain the rest of the warranty on that roof. And then this is another one that, this is a roof drain. If you're not aware, that a lot of our buildings, the gutters are inside the building, not on the outside of the building. And so this is an example of one of those that needs to be repaired. This is one of our few gravel roofs that we still have in the district. This is actually over at Marion Dulford. And you can kind of see where the gravel's gone and you're left with the tar paper here. So this is a piece that, we're going to have to do some repairs on there as well. So just kind of want to kind of put some pictures to kind of what we were talking about there. And then I can answer any other questions we might have about the projects.
So the original request for expenditure projection plan a few months ago, or several months ago actually, was somewhere around 4 or 5 million. And then the trustees had asked us to bring it, I guess, prioritized. So tonight's list represents that prioritization and movement from that 4 or 5 million to 1.65.
Yes, sir.
And if that's the end of the discussion, you can go back to item number 3. Item number, well, it has to be in this order.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, consideration has to be in this order.
So we need to do the budget amendment, approve the budget amendment before we can even get to the EPP.
Correct. You have to approve the funding for the project before you approve the project.
Exactly.
Yep.
Mr. President, I move the Board of Trustees approve budget amendment number 1 as presented for roofing, access control, and building refinishes for the school year 2018-2019 expenditure projection plan.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Before we get to 3 or 4, I will tell you, well, this is 3, but you have to get to 3 before you can get to 4. I'm trying to figure out the correct time because Amy Dreisbeck, she did send a letter, but let's move forward. I'm going to read it in 4. I'll read it in 4. There's a motion and a second. There's no further discussion. All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. 6-0. Motion passes unanimously. Now let's expenditure projection program. You're going to talk about it again, or how do you?
Well, I
just
think you
discuss
covered it all, didn't you? Yeah.
All right. Motion.
Mr. President, I move the Board of Trustees approve the 2018-2019 SCUCISD expenditure projection plan, EPP for roofing, access control, and building refinishes as presented. Funding for the EPP is provided through the district's fund balance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Having said that, let me read a letter from Amy. Mr. Westbrook, unfortunately, I will not be able to be in attendance tonight due to travel for work. I would like to make a statement regarding the action item on funds being used for the fund balance for EPP items. Let me make sure she didn't tell me not to read it again. Hold on. She might have, because she is looking, so. Okay. No, she hasn't refused. Okay, so she hasn't told me not to read it. So fund balance being for EPP items, I would ask that you would read the following statement to the board. I wish that I could be in attendance tonight so that I could be present to discuss the action item, but unfortunately, I had to travel for work this week. I understand that some maintenance issues have been deemed to be used for our fund balance. At this time, I feel that the roofing and access controls are necessary for repair and for safety issues, but feel that due to the budget constraints, we should be reevaluate the $800,000 interior finish or painting expenditures. I want to make sure all instructional needs are being met before we consider using our fund balance for this particular need. Thank you, Amy Dreisbeck. Yeah, she would prefer to put some making sure all of our instructional needs are taken care of prior to sort of this deferred maintenance, 1.6 million.
Just since she wrote that and brought that up, is there a specific instructional need?
I can't elaborate. That's what she wrote. and
Yeah,
that's what I read.
I know, I just,
Yeah.
maybe Dr. Gibson or somebody could.
So there's not an instructional need on the EPP that has been bumped by these roof repairs and security repairs?
No, well, one could argue that, it's lean.
Sure.
Some of that discussion, though, we felt like ended at the May or June board meeting, the instructional part of it. So we brought these back.
That's what the TRE was for. And since that's not going to happen this year, and I understand what Amy's saying, and I respectfully, would have to, for this item, I would have to say, I understand that, but if you look at these pictures, if you've been in these buildings, to me, those things go hand in hand. I think that does have some impact on the instructional programs, unfortunately, we won't have that additional $4 million to spend, which would help instructional programs, but, I've seen roofs come down in classrooms, ceilings come down in classrooms, and you just don't want that. Roofing can solve a whole lot of issues. Part of the issues that we have at Wilder with the interior is part of the building itself, the roof and the exterior, the way it was first built, and then adding on a wing to Wilder, the yellow wing. You're marrying two roofs together, you always have issues with that. So, to me, I understand, but I think this is something that needs to be done. We can't keep pushing this stuff back, so.
John?
I guess what I'll say is, I think one of the hardest things on the board sometimes is to decide how to spend money, because we're spending the community's money, and I think we all have probably different opinions on it, and I think the TRU was one example. I think there were different viewpoints on it, respectfully. I think we all probably have talked to different people in the community on different items, and some people say this to us where they may say something different to another person. But I will say this is, and kind of to bounce off what Mr. Pivotal said, I think everybody does a wonderful job up here presenting items to the board and the needs for it. I will say that one of the things that I've always been impressed with for my short tenure here is when Mr. Mosley or Mr. Pruski present something, they do it very well, and y'all do it, and I've never once had y'all present something where I question the validity of it or I question the need for it. And, this is just another example. I mean, with the pictures, it would be hard for me not to look at those and say, it's a safety issue with the roofs, like Mr. Pivotal said. It's a aesthetic issue. It's all kinds. And I think y'all do a very good job of presenting it. And just for me personally, I don't think there's any doubt that this is very much needed. So.
My contention, I think I get the sense of where this board is going with this, but on October 2nd, we're going to be asked to make some very difficult choices. And a small criticism is that I haven't seen this board be willing to make some very difficult choices. We're talking about $1.6 million from the fund balance. If this board was tasked with cutting $1 million, $1 million, would any of this that we're considering today be among the cuts made? Because sooner or later, we're going to be asked to make cuts. I'm not sure if, however you feel about this, I'm not sure if we were asked to cut $1 million if technology would have made it, but we approved that one months ago. I'm not sure that $800,000 for interior finishes, it does look bad, but the culture of this department, the quality of teaching might be more important than $800,000. And sooner or later, we're going to be asked to say no to something. And we can't say no to, but that's my take. I do get it. I think the appearance of a building does feed into social, emotional learning, the quality of instruction to some extent, even though I think a quality teacher can overcome that. But this board is going to be asked to cut. And now we're getting ready to approve another $1.6 million from the budget. And I mean, I'm having difficulty. Don't get me wrong. The roofs are needed. I get that. Access is important to prevent strangers or unannounced people from roaming the hallway. So I'm in favor of the roof and the access control, but I'm not sold on on the painting, on the interior finishes for Wilder. That's what I'm not sold on.
And I agree. And I just want to clarify one thing, though. I mean, I see your viewpoint, but just to clarify, minus some of the expanded programs and some of the things that didn't make it from the TRE, that, obviously didn't make it, and we moved past that. Is there anything that currently, from the instructional perspective, is lacking or needs to be addressed immediately that would give reason for us not to vote yes for this?
So there are needs, of course, but we balance the budget as per the trustees' request. And so this budget is balanced.
And I know this is putting you on the spot. Are you comfortable right now with the current level of instruction? And I know there's always room for improvement. I mean, I get all those concepts, but based on Ms. Dreisbeck's letter, are you comfortable with the current level of instruction if we voted yes for this?
Well, within the budget that was approved by the trustees, I mean, this is it. And I can tell you, our staff will go down swinging. So one of the things I want us to be careful of is taking advantage of that, because we've got a kind of a one-of-a-kind staff that no matter what happens, they'll just get after it.
Right.
And so, yeah, of course, we have things that we would love to have seen happen, but the board approved a budget, and this is the plan tonight.
And I know that's a difficult question because obviously we want to improve on instruction, we want to improve on every area within the district, and it's kind of a catch-22 question, but I think you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just add, I think I don't know the exact numbers, but I think in the big picture, this board and this district, the administration has done a good job. I believe we put a higher percentage of our overall budget into instruction and teacher salaries than our competitors do. Again, we've said it 100 times up here, but we're one of the highest paying districts in the area when it comes to our teachers, which shows that we are steering a lot of our resources towards instruction and the quality of our teachers. But you can't forget the facilities. If we don't keep up, modest normal repairs now, it's going to cost a lot more later, and you're going to have to take that money from somewhere. I mean, it's going to then come from teacher salaries somewhere down the road or something along those lines. So I think arguably you can always put more money into salaries, you can always put more money into instruction, but at some level we have to have these facilities maintained as well. So I think at this level, I think we are doing a good job on instruction. I don't really have any heartburn putting some more money back into our facilities for maintenance.
Well, you look at it, this is what fund balances are for. A lot of times with instructional programs, you're looking at a continuous cost year after year after year, where this is a one-time cost that we're looking at here. Now, I'm not foolish enough to think that we won't be back at this 2 years from now with other facilities that are going to need the same thing. I know that's going to happen. It happens. That's the nature. When you have the facilities we have, the number we have, it's going to happen because we have some facilities that are aging. Wilder was opened in 1997. Jordan was opened in 2 years later. Watts was opened in 98, I believe. So, we've got facilities. Look, we're using Marion Dahlford. We're using Rose Garden. These are older facilities, not the new Rose Garden, not the new Weiderstein, but the old Weiderstein, which is now Marion Dahlford, and the old Rose Garden. They're older facilities. But to me, this is what fund balances are for. You want to have a healthy fund balance, but at some point in time, you just have to, bite the bullet and say, Yeah, and yeah, you know what? We're going to be looking at some difficult choices in October. And we'll deal with it in October. I think this is something that needs to be done, all 3 projects. So, and that's the one complaint I've heard from a parent, was walking through a building and seeing wallpaper hanging off the walls and things like that. That's the one complaint that I've heard. So I'm just telling you.
Mr. Pivotal, I think you were principal at Schertz Elementary. I remember a time when we didn't have buckets up in the ceiling. I think we have buckets in the classroom.
I was principal at Weiderstein when the ceiling caved in on Michael's steel. Now try to call your boss and say, hey, the ceiling caved in on your son. And he said, call his mother.
So,
if you knew Allison Steele, you know that wasn't a conversation I wanted to have.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's...
we do need to maintain our facilities. We have world-class facilities in this district. I think it's something we're really proud of. I mean, a lot of new schools, but I think it is one of those things that's easily overlooked, and you can move the money to things that seem more of a priority at the time, then all of a sudden it catches up to you at some point down the road. And then it ends up costing a heck of a lot more. So.
Well, I'll just throw that here. $700,000 in the scheme of things is a lot of money, but it's not a huge amount of money. And Mr. Pivotal is correct. Fund balance really is one of those things. This is a one-off, and we've put it off for 22 years. I remember when Mr. Pivotal started down there, my daughter also started the next year, and how nice that campus was. And you simply have to spend the money. One of our number one things is health and safety of our students and staff. And if this impacts the health and safety of our students, then it behooves us to spend the money and get our facilities where they should be so that they have a safe place to study at and our teachers have a good place to go. So I understand the concern, but I think you're right. I think if we're going to spend fund balance for anything, this is a one-off. This is the definition of what you have a fund balance for. If you have to use it in this case, I think we need to go and continue on. So that's my 2 cents worth.
That's fair enough. I can read the tea leaves. I'm not beating a dead horse here. I'm just sort of saying the stage, how much was originally planned for the expenditure projection plan this year, and how much was it cut to get down to the 1.6 million?
Yeah, so that is in state of evaluation right now. So what the board asked us to do is to bring back this year in December, we're going to lay out the expenditure projection plan as modified.
No, I get it, but was 1.6 the original amount that was produced a year ago?
It was 5 million.
It was 5 million.
Yes.
5 million was cut down to 1.6 million, so what happened to the other 3.5 million?
They're now pushed to the 1920 budget.
Exactly, pushed to the 1920 budget, and then further and further. So sooner or later, this is going to catch up with us, and it's going to come out of the fund balance, and this board was unwilling to deal with a TRE at the time. This is coming out of fund balance. This is dwindling the fund balance. This is...
Right. One of the recommendations that we want to try to begin in either 1920 or 2021 is not for it to be coming exclusively out of fund balance, but to work these items into the budget.
Because this is the first, how many budget amendments did we have last year? 3?
No, I believe we had 5 or 6, but some of them, I mean, they were different. We didn't have money in the 95, so we had to do that one. There were several, a food service or 2. I can get that information. I mean, they weren't all for, we had 2 for the EPP
Every
one.
budget amendment, it does not mean you're taking it from fund balance.
Right. Some of them are if you don't have enough money in a function.
But some do.
Right.
That's
But
all I'm
some
saying.
do,
Some do
correct.
come
Yeah.
from the fund
Oh,
balance.
absolutely, and we'll make sure, that's why we add a fiscal note to this, to make sure the board has their eyes wide open of which ones are taking from the general operating fund balance.
All right, and my last comment, and we will vote. Every board member on this, every board member has just made an argument for not denying anything in October. Because we need this, we need this, we need this, we need this, we want this. We're always going to want it. There's always going to be a valid reason not to approve something.
Yeah, and so just thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Westbrook, and just to make sure to manage expectations for October. So that question will probably be closer to January. So October will be staffing and benefits, then November will be the large expenditure items that we'll lay out, and then December will be the EPP. Then, once all of that's laid out in January, that's when we'll start asking the questions. So 3 months of analysis and then the questions.
All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Motion passes 6-0.
I'm going to take exception. We make decisions based on what we have in front of us at any given point in time. We don't always agree on everything, but what we see in front of us, like I said, right tonight, this makes sense to use this particular $1.65 million for these particular purposes. Yes, we'll make decisions in the future, and you're correct, there will be cuts, and we will make those cuts when the time comes. But you can't make a blanket statement and say we're going to approve everything when we haven't even gotten there. We don't have all the information. We don't have everything we need to know at this point in time. We will make cuts when and if those decisions come about. But to try and make a cut or try and make a determination at this point in time with incomplete information, or make a statement to say we're going to approve everything, I don't believe that's correct. We'll make a determination at the point in time we need to, based on the information we have available at that time. So that's the only exception I would make at this point. That there will be things I will look at everything. I will decide at that time if I think that it's appropriate, and I'll vote accordingly. I'm sure everybody up here will do the exact same thing. So I just don't think you can make a blanket statement and say we're going to approve everything when we haven't gotten there yet.
That would be an incorrect statement if that's what I'd said. What I said was, every board member has presented an argument for a reason not to approve anything. There will always be, John just said, everybody does a great job. And if every member of his staff does a great job, to us, we'll be like, that's a great job, and it's a proper justification for spending more money, because they've done their job. That's what I'm saying. John just said they did a great job. They did a great job. They convinced the board we need the money. I expect them to do their job. If they do their job, you will never say no, because that's their job.
I'm only making a more general statement stating that we will make a decision based on the information that's provided to us. Yes, they'll do their job. Yes, the staff will make an argument for us to do that. It's up to us to make a determination if that's something we want to consider. That was what I was referring to, a more general statement, not what Mr. Crew was stating, and that fact is just, we will make a determination when the information is presented to us at the time that we have to make a decision.
We're in a sidebar. This board will now adjourn into closed session. Yes, sir.
Before we do that, I want to give Jordan another coin, because I think he's the first student in 10 years that has made it all the way until the end of a board meeting. So,
Did you not tell him he could leave? Dave?
I think a couple times he was getting ready to comment.
Jordan, we are going into executive section next, and you cannot go. And so this is going to be your window to vacate, but thank you for staying with it, and
thank you, Jordan.
We're proud of you. Yeah, very proud of you, Jordan. We'll give you another round of applause.
This board will now adjourn into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Section 551.072, authorization to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governmental body in negotiations with a third person. 551.074, authorization to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, or to hear a complaint or charge against an officer or employee. Dr. Gibson has assured me it's going to be less than 10 minutes if you want to stick
Ms.
around.
Cannon's saying 5 minutes from the moment
5
she
minutes.
starts.
I manage expectations less than 10. The time is now 8:38. Thank you. Board is now reconvened from closed session. The time is now 8:51. Request for board action, employment of contractual personnel. Linda Cannon.
Yes, the positions on the employment list as presented in closed session are for the replacing positions for the 18-19 school year and are funded out of the 18-19 general operating budget.
Need a motion?
Mr. President, I move the Board of Trustees approve the employment list as presented of contractual personnel for 2018-2019 school year.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 6-0. Next, we will have request for, oh, you had? 6.5, is that? 5.5. Oh. God, can't do the math, all right. Next, we will have request for board action, discussion and possible action regarding finding that a good cause did not exist for a contract teacher's resignation and seek possible sanctions presented by Linda Cannon.
Yes, on written complaint by the district, the State Board of Educator certification may impose sanctions against an educator who is employed under a probationary term or continuing contract who fails without good cause to perform the contract. The board must render a finding that good cause did not exist under Education Code 21.105.
Motion?
Okay, the motion has the person's name. Do I say that? Okay. I move to accept the resignation and find that good cause did not exist for Michael Sines to resign during the school year and to authorize the superintendent to seek possible sanctions for abandonment and untimely resignation of his contract with TEA Educator Certification and Standards Division pursuant to policy DFE, legal and local.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. That's a full 6. The motion passes. Next, we will have review of board activities of the board agenda planning calendar and request for future discussion or action items. Mr. Perkins.
We have, on the 2nd of October, we have a budget workshop. It's a called board meeting, 6 o'clock in here. Is it in here? And on the 16th of October, we have our regular board meeting in here. And in that board meeting, we'll talk about student and staff recognition, partner and collaboration recognition. We'll report out about the board, the trustees will report about advocacy like we always do, membership and participation, involvement in high-level rounding, construction update, strategic plan, district scorecard report, meeting minutes, and financials. And we'll also review the trustee continuing education credits. The reminder that we've got coin tosses, so those of you that signed up for coin tosses coming up next month, later this month and next month. We've got the Tri-County Luncheon on Tuesday, the October 9th at 11:30. We've got Northeast Partnership, and that's at 11:30 as well on the 11th. The Chamber Luncheon is the same day as 16th as our board meeting, and that's at 11:15. And don't forget to buy your tickets for the Education Foundation Casino Night on October 20th.
Thank you.
Staff members get a discount for their ticket. I think they're half price for staff members, be $30, I believe.
Wow.
Board members are double?
Board members have to pay
Twice as much?
And we should talk.
$60. Buy 2 tickets. For a good cause.
One other thing, that communities and schools, Dining with the Stars, Dr. Gibson and I will be waiters, and we've staffed a couple of tables with some high tippers. So we're going to.
Nobody here was invited.
That's right. If you didn't get an invitation, don't read anything into that.
Mr. President, have we gotten the package yet for the TASB convention next week? All right. No, like, we normally get like a packet for expense reimbursement and all that, and. Okay, just curious about that. Okay, all right, sure.
What
Thanks.
time is the Rose Garden opening? on Thursday, on the 20th?
Yeah, what time is the Rose?
6 o'clock on Thursday? Okay. On
And
the
you
20th.
anticipate about 45 minutes and then a tour of the building if
We'll have, the speakers are the wild card variable, but we expect to have a short ceremony.
okay.
And the ribbon cutting outside the school, and in fact, the refreshments if you would like, then the tour.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like to speak from a former Rose Guard president? Sure, I give you one.
We'll discuss. Mr. Pivito, you're going to be welcome to say anything you would like, as always. Yeah.
There we go. As far as the coin toss, I think I'm on the schedule for 2, but if you can let Leticia Seaver know, she's welcome to have one of mine, maybe not the Clemens, but she's welcome to have one of mine, so you can work her in the schedule.
Do you have the coin toss scheduled by any chance?
All right. I'll take the one with, what's her name, with the Senator Donna Campbell. She can have the other one. All right.
Just run through them real quick.
Remaining games,
Please.
Pivito, you've got this Friday with Smithson Valley. Roy Richard and Jim Wolverton are your guests. Mr. Finley, you've got November, Ms. Dreisbach has the Steele Clemens game with John Kemple as the dignitary. Steele San Marcos, which is the Steele homecoming game. Mr. Westbrook, that is your game scheduled with the Cibolo Mayor, Stosh Boyle. Mr. Westbrook also has the Clemens homecoming game the following week with Senator Campbell. Mr. Perkins, you have Steele Smithson Valley with Kyle Kutcher, county judge. Mr. Finley, you have Clemens New Braunfels with Mayor Carpenter of Schertz. And then the final game of the season is Steele East Central. Mr. Perkins, you have that, and Bear County Commissioner Tommy Calvert will be our guest.
No further information, discussion. The meeting is now adjourned, 8:59.